Today's meeting of the Transportation Licensing Commission, if you'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to the provisions of Section 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, notice is hereby given that if you're not satisfied with the decision made by the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met.
Oh, I know.
He can't hear you, he said.
Have the commissioners had an opportunity to review last month's meeting minutes?
We have.
Is there a motion regarding approval?
Moved it.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The first item on our agenda today is there's a complaint lodged against Joyride. Mr. Fields.
We received a complaint from Bob Mendez regarding Joyride operating outside its area of authority. Mr. Mendez is here to speak.
Mr. Mendez.
Thanks very much. So I live and work along West End corridor and frequently see the golf carts outside of downtown on West End. I previously asked Mr. Fields about that, and he has suggested to me that if I get identifying information, whether it's the name of the company and a license plate number, then I could file a complaint. But typically, it's conditions that are so unsafe on West End when I pass one of these vehicles that I'm too busy worried about going the speed limit and staying within traffic and can't get the identifying information. On this particular incident, on the day, June 29th, I was traveling home on Church to West End and then to my home and saw the cart that you've got two pictures of on Church Street between 19th and 21st, backing up traffic. I was maybe 6-7 cars behind it. It traveled on Elliston, still holding up traffic. As it approached West End, where Elliston turns into 2 lanes, all the traffic was going around the golf cart, including me. I decided to pull into the McDonald's parking lot near Centennial Park so I could get a good photograph. And of course, the cart travels so slowly, which is why it's not allowed on West End. I was able to easily get ahead of it. Took the first of the 2 pictures sitting in the McDonald's parking lot. And then thinking I was done with my complaining, I proceeded to head home, caught up to the thing again at 31st at the light, took the second of the pictures, passed it to turn on to 32nd where Tin Angel Restaurant is, which I understand is outside the allowed zone. The golf cart turned behind me onto 32nd, and I stopped about a half block down on 32nd to see where it was going. It stopped at Tin Angel Restaurant, let the passengers off. I see these things all the time on West End, especially going to the hotels near the before you get to Vanderbilt around the Cathedral, and then again going to the hotel across from Vanderbilt, maybe around 26th or so, and they're always holding up traffic on West End. And I say always, once every 3 weeks I see one regularly. I'm not ever able to get the information. This one, I know I've seen this company's golf carts on West End many times before. This time I happened to get photographs, and so I lodged a complaint. There's a reason why the rules are the way they are. They're not safe on West End, and they might be marginally safer on Church Street, but they still hold up traffic dramatically, and that's why they shouldn't be allowed, and that's why I made the complaint. And unless y'all have any questions, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone from Joyride present?
Someone from Joyride, please. introduce everybody.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I'm the VP of Operations at Joyride, and this is Marie. She's the driver of the cart in the photos.
Yes, hello. How are you?
And this is Robbie. He's the general manager.
Hello. Do you have a statement you'd like to make?
I was just unaware that Church Street was restricted. I know that Charlotte is restricted for us. I was aware that Church Street was a 30-mile-hour street road, which we're allowed on. And I was just simply trying to get them to Centennial Park because they had plans to visit the museum the next day, and they were wanting to look at the menu at Ten Angel and then return to the Gulch. And I was thinking that Church Street, yes, it's slower traffic, less traffic, and it was the safest route for me to accommodate the tourists that were here in Nashville. And I did not realize that Church Street was restricted over the bridge. And I do apologize for that.
And are you aware that West End is also restricted?
I thought Ten Angel was right there when I turned out, and I was going to turn into Centennial Park, and I just didn't have the opportunity. And I thought, oh, well, Ten Angel's right there, like right next to the corner of Centennial Park, but it was farther down, unfortunately. And I was in a position where I could not turn to get on a non-restriction road. And so I just went ahead, and then I went by Vanderbilt, through Vanderbilt, to get them to the Gulch, because they just wanted to see the menu. And I just got in a bad situation when I turned on, because I thought Ten Angel was right there. I forgot where it was, the placement of it. So it was just one of those moments where you thought something was where it was supposed to be, and it wasn't. I was just trying to cross West End to get to the restaurant that was required, and that for them to see the Parthenon in the park, because they had plans the next day. And I did try to move. I did try to move out of the flow of traffic and move into a different lane to let people pass me and such like that. So, and I always use bike signals and additional to my flashers and such when I'm driving.
Have you driven on West End and Church previously?
Not my Church. I have during a Vanderbilt game, but I was told by a police officer that I was allowed to because of the congestion during the Vanderbilt game. I always ask police officers, and there was police officers posted. As you go across that side of town, I was like, can I take this route and this route to get them to the Vanderbilt game, or where's a good drop-off spot? I'm always very aware of the Metropolitan Police.
And in her defense, Church Street is a little confusing with regards to the map, because it is yellow on the map, and it's really hard to see on the online version of the map, and that's what we do share with our drivers.
Yes.
West End is red, though, and we're all very aware that that's off limits.
Yes, and I only use West End to cross over to Midtown or something like that, and I always usually take Montgomery Hill and all that, that side to get to Vanderbilt area, unless they're requesting to go to Centennial Park. It's very difficult to get to Centennial Park, for the tourists, if you do not take Church Street, and it's a lot safer because it's usually zero traffic when I go.
How long have you driven for Joyride?
Since August.
Yeah, I would say
August. Yeah.
August of last year?
Yes, sir. I took a break during the winter time to take care of my mother.
Mr. Fields?
Yes, sir.
Quick question. Refresh me on this. Is it not correct that you are not allowed to cross the street?
You may cross the streets they're talking in particular. Church Street, West End, 21st, and Charlotte are all for you. They can't drive across beyond 40 on the downtown. You may cross the streets. In other words, if you're on 31st, you may cross West End, but you can't proceed on West End or Hillsborough Road once you get over there.
Okay.
Yes, and that's what I have been doing.
I thought that was based on speed limit, though.
Well, again, we allow them to cross because there's some exceptions in state law for those sort of things.
What sections of Church Street are
When you get past
low-speed vehicles not allowed to drive
when you
on?
get past, it's probably 12. It's right there at NES is the simplest way to describe it. You can't go beyond that in a low-speed vehicle.
So is the Elliston Place permitted road?
No. In other words, we basically close Church Street all the way to the park by your rule.
But again, it's the safest route to take people to the park and to the Vanderbilt games because it's the least congested with cars and such. But I was not aware. I honestly was not, because the map is in poor quality for us that's provided.
I'll check with our engineers that prepared it to make sure that it's correct and be very clear.
Yeah.
In the written notice that went to the company, all those streets were listed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that ignorance of the streets that are prohibited is a good defense
Yeah.
on whether or not joyride's permitted to drive on the roads or not. We've been very clear since we first enacted that rule and had the map. We had a meeting, we had the map blown up tremendously. We had a long discussion about what roads were going to be allowed and weren't going to be allowed. We had a lot of members from the industry who drive for low-speed vehicles at that meeting, the owners, the managers, all contributing to the discussion. There have been a number of reportings, not just from Mr. Mendez, but over the last year about joyride in particular, riding on streets that are prohibited. Mr. Mendez is actually the first who's filed a formal complaint, so that's why we're having the hearing today. Does anyone else have any questions for joyride management in particular?
I do. What's your training for drivers when they confront a situation where they find themselves stuck, that they can't go where the passenger wants to go because the street is prohibited, like was just explained by, is it Maria?
Yes, sir.
Hold on a second. Just explained by Maria. She's traveling down Ellingston, she hits West End, she knows she can't travel on West End, but she proceeds on it because she's got passengers who want to go somewhere. What's your training and policies that you give to your employees?
We tell the employees when they start working for us that they're not allowed on those roads. That's as far as the training goes.
So you have no training for them when they're hit between a rock and a hard place of hitting a street they can't go on, and passengers in the back that have traveled from the Gulch out there?
We tell them to use their best judgment in that situation.
Well, that
Obviously,
leaves it
we
wide
wanna make
open
the
to going on
customers
a
happy.
prohibited street. I mean, what are they going to do? Turn around and say, sorry, folks, get out?
I guess that's a good question for you guys. What would you like us to do in that situation?
I know what you got to do. You don't go on West End and endanger tourists who are invited to this town. My second concern, Maria, is that you have blatantly said that you proceeded on church. You said that you were a little confused about it, but several times you've said, well, it's the most convenient way and least dangerous way to get folks down to Centennial. And yet it's a clearly prohibited street of only a few streets that are absolutely prohibited going west down there.
Yes.
So I kind of
but-
doubt your sincerity that you
No,
didn't understand that church and Ellingston were prohibited.
I understood that it was a 30-mile-an-hour, and the reason I said what I said is because Church Street is never really congested unless it's rush hour, and we're restricted on rush hour, and I always arrive back at the office 30 minutes before our time restriction.
Well, I'm sorry,
So-
but my own personal experience up and down church at lunchtime and other times is it's extremely crowded
Yeah.
and very narrow.
But I was just trying to do the best for them and accommodate their needs. And if I get a call, I will say at a personal level, if I get a call and they say, hey, I want to go to blah, 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 and it's out of our restriction zone, I will actually offer them a Lyft or Uber code to get them to the destination that they are asking for, or refer to a taxi service. Because I'll say no, I can't take you. That's out of a restriction zone. So if I have a client that says, well, we're going to go here, and then they get back in and they say, oh, well, we need to go here. I say, I'm sorry, I can't take you. Here's an Uber or Lyft code, or I can call you a taxi to accommodate you. Or I even refer to the metro system, especially if they want to go out to Opry Mills or to the Bluebird Cafe.
It's nice to hear today, but you didn't do that on the date that Mr. Mendez saw you on West End and Church in Ellingston.
Yeah.
They're allowed to go into Centennial Park, correct?
They can be in Centennial Park.
I mean, I guess my thought would be as soon as you realized you were on West End, you could have easily turned in to Centennial Park and got back on regular street.
I was the clients had asked a question and I missed the turn. So as
I mean, there are several right there that you could have easily turned off of West End. And been okay.
because I was also looking for the tin roof. I thought it was right there. So I do apologize. It was a mistake, and it'll never happen again with me and as the company.
Well, one of the things that concerns me is that you presume that if a road was 30 miles an hour, posted with a limit of 30 miles an hour or less, that it was okay to drive on, and that simply just isn't the case. I mean, we carefully chose roads to be prohibited for a reason, because they're heavily traveled on.
I just didn't realize that church was. I honestly had
Right,
never.
and
then the fact that in the past that the Metro Police have let me use that road to get to the Vandy
the
games.
problem with your response is that it reflects poorly on Joyride itself. The Joyride should be, and its management should be, educating all of its drivers very clearly on the roads that they're allowed to travel on, and apparently it's not.
We do post a map in the driver's room for everyone to see, but like I said before, it is poor quality. It's only an 8x11, so it is there for the drivers to see. But the Church Street was highlighted in yellow, so when it printed off, it was hard to visualize that.
Have you ever requested to Mr. Fields for better quality?
Right, are you talking about this map, 8.5x11?
I think, don't you have a large map on, I thought you had a large map on your wall.
Yeah.
We do, but it's one that we did by hand, so
Oh, I
that's
didn't-
the official one that we want to go by. Yes.
And you think that this is impossible to read?
I didn't say it's impossible to read. It's difficult. Yes.
It's very difficult.
Yes.
And just tell me, I just want to know what is difficult to read about this map?
The yellow. Do you mind if I?
Not at all.
The yellow roads. I guess maybe it's our printer. It's
Oh,
just
well,
with lower
that's
quality
okay,
printer.
but I would think that if you printed it and you saw it and the yellow might be a little bit lighter because your printer toner wasn't updated, that you wouldn't have just put a yellow mark on there, put, a
Maybe,
yellow
yeah.
flare. So if this is what's hanging in your driver's room,
Right.
I would think that you had control over its readability.
Just making sure there's some type of laminated copy in every cart, or a list of the roads. Same thing in every cart. And I guess, are they tested at all? I mean, do they have to take a test before they're allowed to go out and drive so that they know all the roads?
We do have a driver's test that they take. Each specific road is not on that test, though.
But I mean, are the main ones that they are not supposed to be on? I mean, I realize they're not going to know
It
every
is
little
discussed.
street
Yes,
on there.
it is discussed.
It's discussed, but not necessarily tested, and they have to pass the test to be able to drive.
At the end of our test, we talk about boundaries and what roads we are allowed on, what roads we're not allowed on, and that question is purposefully the last question on there so that we can discuss it as a group and, everyone can know.
My concern here is when you say, but the clients really wanted to go there, or they only wanted to read a menu, and I had to take them, and you were taking them out of your area, and you knew that you were doing it, but you thought that it was okay
I
because the clients
didn't
wanted
realize
to do
Tin
it.
Angel was out of the boundary zone when I did that. So,
It's on West End Avenue.
well, I was trying to cross over to the area. I just didn't know where 10 Angel was, and I made that mistake, and I do apologize. I thought it was near, right across the street from, or a corner of Centennial Park, and I made the mistake. I made the mistake. I am very sorry.
One other suggestion might be is everybody has a cell phone. You can easily type it in and see where it is located. You probably have easily pulled up their menu too without having to drive.
They were actually also wanting to see the venue itself and go inside. So, yeah. And I was just trying to do my best for the client, and I just made a mistake, and I'm very sorry.
It's really not about the client in this instance. And neither is it. We spent a long time with a lot of people from Joyride and other slow moving vehicles and police to come up with this map. So you're saying that it was my opinion that driving on Church Street was the best and least what I don't remember your exact words that you said. It is not about your opinion. It's about what the law says.
Yes, ma'am, but I wasn't aware it was a restricted road. That was my consensus. I thought it was allowed on it, and so.
Well, then for me, that goes back to management, and that should be something they all know, those main roads, West End, Church Street, Charlotte, and I know I'm not getting them all. I mean, it doesn't appear on this map that there are a ton that are marked in yellow. Those should be fairly easy to remember, and they're all main thoroughfares through the city. So.
And you've been driving for a year. It's not like you just
off and
started
on.
driving.
I do it part-time to help with my mother's cost of living.
Any other questions? Thank you. Mr. Mendez, do you remember what time of day you took these photographs?
I was driving home from work, and so my best guess is, between 5:30 and 6:30, enough for there to be rush hour traffic on the way home. And I would also make the point of, if you're coming onto West End at Elliston, there is no crossing West End there. There's no street to cross over. You have to go onto West End from Elliston. That's a merge. It's not a cross.
Right.
Can I ask a couple questions? Councilman Menendez, I've heard the driver say that she pulled over a few times to let cars go by. Did you see that at all?
That absolutely didn't take place on Church or Elliston, or and by the time I caught back up at 31st, West End's 4 lanes there, 1 lane to turn right onto 31st, 2 main lanes of traffic, and then the turn to turn left onto West End. Of the 2 main lanes of traffic, she was in the close to the center, and I was closer to the curb. So when she was traveling from approximately the Chipotle, maybe 29th or so, to 31st, she was in the left hand of the 2 main lanes of traffic.
So there's no way she was going to make a right on 31st there towards Centennial?
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
No.
She crossed 31st and then moved into the center lane in the middle of West End Avenue to cross a left-hand turn to go onto 32nd and stop in front of 10 Angel.
My next question is, can you give us an idea of whether this was an annoyance or actually was jeopardizing safety of drivers and passengers? Some idea of the situation.
On Church and Elliston, most of y'all know, if you get to 21st and Church, it turns into 1 lane because there's a mandatory turn lane, and so there's a little bit of a choke point on Church when you get to 21st. On Church and Elliston, it clearly slowed down traffic, and that was probably the most safe it was, because people were just going, the speed of a golf cart behind them, 6-10 cars deep. On West End, frankly, I mean, I consider that stretch of West End to be relatively dangerous for people in a car. It's not uncommon to see fender benders from the McDonald's through 31st because there's so many people crisscrossing. I didn't witness anything that struck me as, oh my God, somebody's about to be hurt. I consider it to be inherently dangerous to be on a golf cart on that stretch of West End.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Fields, can you remind us as the commission the rules on restriction of use of low-speed vehicles during rush hours?
The commission passed, it's actually rule number 1 for low-speed vehicles, that vehicles aren't allowed, number 2, vehicles aren't allowed, low-speed vehicles aren't allowed between 7 and 9 in the morning and 4 and 6 in the evening, Monday through Friday. You specifically asked about the rules related to 35 miles an hour. Travel 6.73205 says that drivers at all times shall travel only on roads with speed limits that do not exceed 35 miles an hour. It goes on to say they may cross those streets, but they may not drive on them. Then the other rule that you've passed deals with the zones and the prohibited streets.
Ms. Dykes? Ms. Dykes? Can you come forward again, please?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember where you picked up your passengers?
I honestly do not remember. It was either in the Gulch area or further into the Strip area. I'm not quite sure. It was a good time ago. But I know that I wouldn't have been out during restriction. It would if he was saying it was like after, it would have had to been after 6 o'clock because I would have been at the office. There was no way I would chance that. So I do depend on this job for extra income.
If you pick up a passenger from the Gulch area, where do you cross over 40? Or do you remember where you did in this instance?
I don't remember where I picked them up from. I honestly don't. All I do remember is they requested to go back to the Gulch because they thought they might have better dining options and they'd be closer to their hotel.
Thank you. Well, we've heard from Councilman Mendez. We've also heard from Ms. Dykes and a representative of Joyride. Would any of the commissioners like to discuss the matter further together, or like to make a motion? I think in the past we've decided, commissioners have moved on the issue of whether a rule was violated, and then decided after the fact in a separate motion what type of penalty to impose, or either through probation or suspension or revocation.
Well, I think the proof's unrefuted that there's been a violation of driving on a prohibited street, and it appears also out of the zone. So I would make a motion to find that Joyride and this particular driver have violated the restrictions for low-speed vehicles.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. For clarity, Mr. Fields, do we need to identify the rules that, by number that were
That
violated?
particular rule would be 6.73.205. And then the other, the operating would be 6.73.80 would be the two. 380, I'm sorry. 6.73380.
I would make a motion to amend my initial motion to include those specific rules that were just addressed or just identified by Mr. Fields.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We need to decide what to do in terms of a course of action against Joyride or Ms. Dykes. Mr. Fields, what are our options?
I think your options, again, it's two separate issues, but the options are very similar. You may choose to do nothing. You may choose to place someone on probation or the company on probation. You may choose to suspend an individual driver or the company, or you may revoke a individual's permit or the company permit. We have not had specific disciplinary issues with this driver. So this is a visit in, when this first visit for Joyride for a complaint of this nature.
Well, in this instance, I think that we should be looking at some type of penalty against Joyride itself, not just the driver. It was clear through Joyride's testimony that, and Ms. Dykes, that there was not a clear directive provided to Ms. Dykes or particularly its other drivers with respect to what roads were prohibited, was not instilled in their drivers how important it is to follow this commission's rules on the restricted streets, and how important it is for public safety that low-speed vehicles follow the map and only drive on roads that they're permitted to drive on. It's important that Joyride and other low-speed vehicle companies instill that in that importance with their drivers, also with their passengers. When passengers request to go to locations that are not permitted by the map or for any number of reasons have been prohibited, that needs to be communicated to the passenger, and it can be done in a professional way, but certainly the passenger needs to realize that there are only limited places that a low-speed vehicle is allowed to go or at least travel on. That clearly was not done by Joyride, and I think that we should be looking at suspending Joyride for some period of time.
I'll make a motion. I would make a motion that we suspend Joyride's operating license for 30 days. I would suggest those 30 days start August 1st through the end of the month.
Mr. Fields, is there, I know this has come up in the past where we have made a ruling with respect to a rule violation in terms of a penalty, and either through suspension or probation, and the timing of when it began has been somewhat important, just because there may be, for whatever reason, a party may want to appeal. How have we handled that in the past?
They have, by anything that you do may be appealed. The question becomes, when does your order go into effect? If you specifically order it to a specific time, then it would go into effect at that particular moment. If you choose not to, typically we would not execute the order until the minutes are approved at the next meeting, unless then sometimes the company says, I want to start now, and they want to get it over with. So it's been a mixed bag. If you order a 30-day suspension beginning on August the 1st, then we would expect it to begin on August the 1st. If you want to allow, I mean, obviously by law they have the right to file an appeal through the writ of certiorari, so they could go in and file that tomorrow and basically
Correct.
stay your order until that hearing is what I think typically has happened. But I'm gonna look back at our lawyer to make sure that's all correct.
You can obviously do it both ways. The cleaner way probably is to start it upon the adoption of the minutes, because that's typically the time frame in which their appeal right really starts to run, because that's when we adopt it. That doesn't mean you can't do it the other way. It's just, for language purposes, it's easier to do it that way.
Are we open for discussion on the motion right now?
Yes.
Okay. One thing we have taken sanctions before and looked back and said, or someone came to us and said, oh, we had a contract to provide a particular service during that period of time. I don't know if they have any. I mean, I know Joyride before had contracts earlier in the year with Anheuser-Busch and some things. I don't know if they've got a big one coming up that this might have something to do with their contractual obligations. I haven't heard from them on the penalty yet.
Right.
And also, is there any consideration about, you mentioned about the suspension for Joyride. I guess that would suspend Ms. Dykes as well, at least from Joyride, but that's my thoughts.
My thoughts are that, although I don't think that probation across the board is enough, I think 30 days, would you be flexible on that? I just think stopping a business for 30 days it would hurt so many people, and this is the first time that we've received one of these complaints.
Yeah.
So if you are not open to probation as the first time offense, then maybe you'd be open to something less than 30 days. It's just a lot.
Yeah.
First time offense. I know that we've heard a lot of complaints.
I understand.
We all get a lot of complaints
But-
about Joyride.
But we're not discussing any other complaints. We're only
Right.
discussing one.
Right.
So I understand that. But at the same time, I think just a suspension, how do you enforce that?
You mean
And
a
let's-
probation?
I mean,
Probation.
a probation. If nobody comes back to us and says, I saw him doing something else, then it doesn't hurt
Right.
at all.
Unfortunately for Joyride, we get a lot of that. We get a lot of people who don't file complaints, but photographs and talk. Yeah, I'm guilty myself. I've seen a lot of things with Joyride, as we all have.
We all have.
And maybe we need to bring that to the table. I'm just thinking, since this is the first offense, I think 30-day suspension of the company is a little bit harsh.
Okay.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't do something, and probation may not be enough, but it's just my opinion. There are 3 other people here that are going to vote.
I do want to add that the only complaint before us is the one brought by Mr. Mendez. I mean, the pending motion on the table, it's my understanding is and the motion in which we just passed in terms of an actual rule violation was based solely on Mr. Mendez's complaint. It was not based on any anecdotal information that the commission has received over the last year.
Correct.
Or anything like that. I don't think that would be appropriate. So I think in terms of a sanction, we should only be looking at the rule violation that we found today, and not at all any anecdotal information that we've received elsewhere. That's really important. I think that needs to be said.
Okay.
I'll reshape my motion. I would make a motion that we suspend their operating license for a period of 10 days that will run consecutively, starting the Monday after the next meeting where minutes will be approved, and then for a period of 6 months, add a probationary period where if they come back before us, we can go back and look at the original complaint.
I second that motion, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank
Now,
you.
the issue of the driver.
Oh,
Concurrent.
that,
The-
well, that would include
Well, I guess.
Ms.
if you're
Dykes.
Yes,
Yeah.
at the same time, correct.
Would
as
she
a
be-
joyride driver.
Yeah, I was going to say, is she precluded from driving for another company, though?
It worked the same. If the company's suspended, obviously the driver is too.
Yeah, because they're
I think Mr. McNally is right that it would not prohibit Ms. Dykes from driving for another company if she somehow got hired.
That's true. They could add to another company.
Well, I will make a motion that Maria Dykes be suspended for 10 days and placed on 6 months probation, all to be concurrent with the time that has just passed on Joyride. Joyride's sanctions.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Mendez. Thank you, Ms. Dykes and Joyride, for appearing today. Next on our agenda, we've got another complaint. This one is against Express Towing. Mr. Fields.
We have a couple of issues to bring before the commission. Mr. Shamarki Abdi, who is present, filed a complaint regarding his vehicle that was towed by Express Towing. He'll be able to explain the complaint. We'll also have issues that they've had a couple of trucks that were not properly marked, were not properly registered with the office. We also got at least an issue we need to resolve today regarding the name of the company as it appears on their application and on the files at the office, and we can work through that. They are Express is represented by counsel, and Mr. Shamarki it will be speaking for himself.
My name is Shamarki Abdi. Before I start, can I present some documents on better pictures?
I'm sorry.
Can I present some clear pictures and some documents before I start? Okay. Oh, this is the...
I think Mr. Shamarki just gave this to the
All right, you can proceed, Mr. Abdi.
Okay. My name is Shamarki Abdi. I own that 2008 Chevy Outlander. I used to be a cab driver back then. My brother had membership with 10 Cab. He's one of the owners. And the company required him to include ADA vehicle with accessibility. So back in September, I went to Chicago, went for Megabus. Went there, bought a vehicle, came back with a Megabus. Went back after 3 days, paid the fee, went with my brother. We drove the car. We painted with yellow at that time. We took to the inspection ADA on Metro Center. They inspected. I bought it some straps. So my brother was driving that car. On January 2014, I had a job out of state, Minnesota. So I left Tennessee. The company suggested we have to turn the vehicle to them so that they could enforce, they can find a driver, vehicle to drive, since it has already accessible vehicle. So it was January 2014 until the company management has changed back and forth. They wanted my vehicle to be there to make accessible, to maybe probably comply with transportation licensing. In somewhere at the end, I think December in 2016, I found my car was missing from the lot. It was custody under 10 Cab. I called 10 Cab. The management kept changing, so I couldn't get cooperation. So I talked to one individual that I know to go with him and find out where the vehicle is. He could not talk to them. That is when I wrote out of theft report. I called the Metro Police Department, and they told me you have to be in person to make a report, out of theft report. I couldn't make it at that time. So I wrote a notarized statement, and I had one of my friend who made the report. He's with me. And at that time, I was thinking maybe the vehicle was stolen for something. When the vehicle was reported, the responding officer came and met Ahmed, and he told him before he can file out of theft report, what he will do is he will call every towing company in Metro, Nashville, Davidson County. So he went the list almost 2 hours to find out where the vehicle is. So he finally went back after 2 hours waiting. He came back with him and provided that Express Towing is the one who was holding the vehicle. Ahmed traveled to their lot. They told him the vehicle is different lot, so they will take him where the vehicle is. He saw and he took pictures. Those are the pictures that he took at that time. It was devastating. You know, the Ram, which is almost $5,000 to $15,000, was missing. The door was missing. The vehicle was bad shape. I asked him if he could ask if they ever requested the lien, or the request, did they ever put the lien? He says no, they didn't put the lien. He asked when did this vehicle was got it. They said June 2016. What I did was, same day I wrote certified letter through UBS. I asked them, they cannot hold my vehicle. They have to release within 10 days. And the reason I said was, in the first, what they did was non-consent tows. In Transportation License Commission, they have, you can't, tow a vehicle without consent. And they also get the vehicle from the private property. And I also found out in Tennessee rule that says when you tow a vehicle, within 3 days, you have to request ownership from the state. In my situation, within 15 days, you have to send certified letters to me. That's what it says. They have never done. So since June 2016, they've been holding the vehicle until the report was filed, was April 2017, and the vehicle was good condition. There were no missing doors. I created outline, and that outline, I found multiple record ordinance was broken, which one non-consent. They didn't report the police within 1 hour. They didn't make the inbound notification requirement based on licensing commission. They didn't keep records. We asked them, did they have receipts? Did they have who called, who gave them, when the time, who did initial tow? All this was not available. They didn't provide a daily manifest. And also per Tennessee Code annotated TCA 55-16-112, it says that you cannot tow vehicle without written statement or someone will give you authorization. Also, there is a Tennessee Code ANN section 39-14-103, theft of property. What they did was they sold my vehicle, and they sold its parts, and they hold without putting lien. They sold the RAM, they sold the door, probably the radio. Everything was missing. And what they did was they tried, in one of the letters that I get from the commission, the field, they said like my address is wrong. The mail came back to them. So everything started after I sent the certified letters. I provided that certified letters, my full address, where I live. I asked them if they can respond within 10 days to release the vehicle. Also, by Tennessee law, they cannot charge me within more than 6 days of storage, based on if they fail to do those first two ones. So they said my address is wrong. Mail came back twice. I provided proof that my driver license, my copy of lease. I provided the envelope that I got from Transportation Licensing. Also, I provided current electric bill that shows my address. I also provided a letter that I got back October 5th, 2016 that shows my address. Right now, what I'm here is, if I would ask replacement of the vehicle, it will cost them $15,000 or more. That's why it's very difficult owning accessible vehicle. I never had accessible vehicle until 13 years, and what it cost me was $14,000, and that vehicle cost $39,000. It was a bargain for me. So by getting a vehicle with accessible vehicle is very expensive. So right now, I'm no longer in transportation anymore. That vehicle I can't drive just because it's not made for my ability. So if they want to resolve this matter, I included a spreadsheet that shows the vehicle I paid $3,500 on Chicago. That's where I bought, and all the related expenses that related that vehicle. So if they could resolve that one, I want also to make disciplinary, so that no one else would have this. You can't just have someone's car and sell its parts, and when they find out, and just still hold, even if when I send a letter that says I want my vehicle to be released within 10 days, certified letters, I provided proof of UPS delivery. I will retain the right to, if this matter is not resolved, I will retain the right to sue them full cost. I will also retain the right to make our theft complaint. file complaint, just because all these failed. If you have any questions, you could ask me.
May I ask a question? I'm not sure about the procedure, Mr. Chairman, to have an opportunity to cross-examine Mr. Abdi now.
If you'll bear with me just a moment.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Abdi, do you have other witnesses who are going to be testifying on your behalf?
Ahmed
today?
is here. He's the individual who I wrote a notarized statement that he has to make the statement. He's here.
Do you have anyone else?
I could ask, but the person who made Ahmed is the one who made that I stated on the outline, and he'll be happy to. The vehicle's excellent condition, and there was the building has a camera. It wasn't missing any parts when they towed the vehicle. So, and it was under custody of 10 cab. You know, you can't have a vehicle almost 2 years and a half without, you know, nobody taking care. You know, my brother used to come here and change the oil and maintain and.
Thank you. Mr. Fields, when we've had hearings before, we've typically not had cross-examination by the adverse party.
Yep.
Is that something that is allowed by our procedure?
I think you're allowed to do that if you choose. The question at that time was, were we swearing people, putting people under oath?
Right.
We chose not to do that. And then you allowed a conversation to, the chair would give permission for them to ask the question. So if you choose to do so, you can.
I don't think it would be appropriate to have cross-examination simply because, you know, this is not a court of law. This is a hearing of the Transportation Licensing Commission. You know, we don't find or make determinations of civil liability. What we do for the purpose of this hearing is to determine if any of our rules have been broken. For that reason, I will respectfully decline request to cross-examine. Now, of course, you will be permitted to make your argument or present witnesses yourself who may want to counter Mr. Abdi's statements. Mr. Abdi, do you have anything else you'd like to present?
Can I ask my document? Because I haven't hired an attorney, and the reason I came is almost 8,000 miles. I mean, from Minnesota. I lost 2 days' job, so he could look, but I will ask him my documents to give me back, since his matter is not resolved yet, still pending. So if you want those documents to be provided, I will hire a lawyer and I will hire an attorney. So this matter will be.
I'm sorry, which documents are you referring to?
I think Mr. Field, you gave my outline to.
Correct. I shared the outline.
Okay. Did you give it back?
I've not gotten it back yet.
Yep. Yeah, I will ask you to give him back. So since, you know, he can look, but I'm not.
Well, actually, the document that you provided to the commission is now public record, so he can actually have a copy of that, so we can
That's
make.
fine.
Does the commissioner have any questions for Mr. Abdi? Thank you, Mr. Abdi.
Thank you.
If you'll please introduce yourself.
Brian Lewis, I represent Express.
Great. If you'll go before the microphone. Thank you.
I represent Express Towing. I guess we'll deal first with this issue with Mr. Abdi. I have Mr. Charles Mann, the owner of the company. I also have Mr. Mike Copeland, Mr. Trotter. I'd like for them to come forward. I'm going to ask for some
All right.
testimony out of them.
Great.
Come forward, please.
Because we're televised, it'll be important that they speak in front of the microphone.
Okay, well, first of all, please state your name for the commission.
Craig, man.
Mr. Mann, was this a non-consent tow?
Yes, sir.
Did your company have permission to tow the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Who did they obtain permission from?
The property management.
And I would like to point out, if you will see, look in the pictures, look on the license. It's very important to look at the license plate. The license plate shows the last time this vehicle was registered was in 2014. So you had a vehicle that was unlicensed, unregistered, sitting on the lot of Tennessee Cabs. That's against a code. That's against codes regulation to have an unlicensed, unoperable vehicle on the lot. They were called. After you towed the van, did you notify the appropriate authorities that you were?
When we picked the van up, before we even touched it, we called it in to the call center.
Okay. What was the condition of the van when you picked it up?
It was stripped.
Okay.
That's why they didn't want it there. It looked like junk.
Mr. Copeland, will you come to the? Please introduce yourself to the commission.
Mike Copeland.
What do you do? Do you work for Express Towing?
Yes, sir, I do.
What was did you see the van when it was towed?
Yes, sir, I did.
What was the condition of the van?
Well, we towed two of them that day. Two of them was yellow cabs, and the first one come in was a Dodge minivan. I don't remember what year it was, but we done. Then the next one come in, we pulled two of them together. The first one was the Chevrolet Outlander. I think it was 08. It was full of trash, door gone off of it. I don't know nothing about a handicap ramp in it. I never looked in it. The only thing I remember the man telling the driver that it was full of trash and the homeless people lives in it, because I'm going to be honest with y'all, down there where we pulled it from, there's a store in front of it. Used to be a quick sack store. And we tow cars down there all the time where people come into Nashville, they sleep in their cars, the police comes in, they run their ID, they take them to jail. Somebody's been sleeping in that cab. It was trash all in the inside of it. I didn't notice no handicap ramp in it. I had no reason to look. Now, I don't know what else to tell y'all.
And would like to have Mr. Trotter come to the microphone, please. Please introduce yourself to the commission.
I'm Irby Trotter.
Were you the tow truck driver that actually towed that van that day?
Yes, sir. I was sent down there. I've been down that place several times to get vehicles, and every one I've ever got from down there has been vandalized. The owner of the place said he won't even leave his car sitting there overnight. And when I picked it up, the door was gone. Of course, the driver's wind was busted. I didn't see a handicap ramp because I looked in it to see if the parking brake was on. So, you know, I know about taking off, towing it. And it was, I don't see how it could have been put on the road. I mean, it was that bad a shape. I know you get certain standards on cabs.
And did you talk with someone there at the premises?
Yeah, they authorized. They signed a ticket. Once they signed a ticket, I go over and I write down all the information, tag number, you know, what kind of vehicle it been, and then I called the impound lot.
Can you tell me again where the lot's located and who owns the lot?
I don't know who owns the lot. I don't remember. So.
My understanding, Mr. Chairman, it's a lot where Tennessee Cab is located.
Yeah, right.
And I've got one other point we would like to put forward. I checked with Director Fields today. I heard Mr. Abdi say that Tennessee Cab was going to use this for an ADA compliant van. I checked with Director Fields today, and this van had never been registered.
correct, it was not on Yellow's list. It was never painted to go to tin cab. It could not have been placed, legally, it could not have been placed on the tin cab list because it was never painted and at that time inspected.
Okay.
And that's, so is it on Tin Cab's property or somebody else's property?
It's tin cab.
Tin Cab.
And Tin Cab itself is the one that reported the vehicle to be towed.
Yes, management.
How long was it on that lot?
3 years.
3 years.
Let me explain to you where it's locked at. If you go out,
You can get back in front of the microphone.
you go Murfreesboro Road to Plus Park Boulevard. You know, you got a Regent's Bank, then you got a car lot on the corner called AAA Auto Sales. Right behind it is Rick's Motel. They rent about a week. Right behind it's an old quick sack market. And right behind it is the office building. That's where it come from. You ain't got nothing but homeless people living down around there. We told them all the time out at Rick's Inn, out that old quick sack store, and the office building there at 325 Plus Park. And all you get is trash out there. I mean, ain't homeless people can't go nowhere but get in a car and live right in there, you know. It's kind of messed up.
When was the last time Mr. Arthur saw the car?
We can ask.
Mr. Abdi, when was the last time you saw the car? You were there personally.
That car, the building, the car custody was under Tin Cab, and the Tin Cab never called to be towed this vehicle. The reason they require this vehicle to be included, I explained in my complaint that I own the vehicle. My brother has membership. The vehicle was functioning when we submitted to the Tin Cab.
3 years ago.
Yes. So what they were doing was they were trying to find a driver to drive, and I accepted to put insurances. The vehicle was insured, I think, 4 months after I left.
When was the last time you saw the car?
It has been 2016. The vehicle was there 2016.
You saw it in 2016?
My brother saw it. I always contacted with the management to find a driver. They never released me the vehicle back, since they never say that we don't want this vehicle to be to still have it. So the vehicle was there, and it's not something like I abandoned the vehicle. So the person who reported to me was one of the friends who said the car was missing from the lot. It was managers. They kept changing, like 4 or 5 managers each time.
But they have a signature from someone who says, please remove this car from this lot. So they did, they were called. They didn't just drive around and say, there's a car, let's go pick it up.
Tin Cab was the lease, the person who's paying the lease. If the Tin Cab, my car was in custody under Tin Cab. Whoever made the report, if it's not Tin Cab, the building has more than one tenant. So Tin Cab is one of them. There are more than one tenant. So if Tin Cab didn't report the vehicle to be towed, and again, for any reasons, if this vehicle has been towed by, let's say, based on the receipt we got in June, Express Towing have never followed the procedure that, it's just like auto theft. Now they're saying, we reported to the police, can they provide the impound report number? They can't. The police itself could not find their record that this vehicle has been reported. What he did was, Ahmed is here. He can explain. Ahmed Sustak.
When did you move to Minnesota? What year?
I moved in January when I found a full-time job.
What year?
2014.
So, and have you been back to Nashville since 2014?
No, but my brother came.
So you have not seen the car since 2014?
No, but my brother is the one who's owner.
I'm trying to get an answer to the question that was put to you a few minutes ago.
Yes, sir.
And you have not relicensed the vehicle since 2014? The plate, got the new plate for it?
The vehicle wasn't, I could not register the vehicle since I don't live there. If they could find a driver, I'll be happy to put insurance. The company was trying to find a driver. And imagine, 2.5 years,
I've got my answers.
They had the custody, the vehicle.
and just for the record, and Director Fields, you may be able to answer this. You have a non-consent license, a non-consent towing license.
Yes, sir, we have a non-consent towing license.
Because all I see from what we've been given here is whether there, in our rules, whether it was legal for them to tow as non-consent or not. Everything else falls outside of our jurisdiction. I don't want to speak for the chairman, but I don't see anything else in this complaint that falls under our purview.
The issue of non-consent towing is clearly one of the issues. There's an implied rule, the implication in the law that they would have to protect it if it was taken apart. However, the start of the issue is, was it a legal non-consent tow? Non-consent tow is required. Any tenant in that building, the way the state law is written, has the authority. Anybody who has a signed lease on that property may have a vehicle towed as a non-consent.
As long as it's not a privately owned building solely by one company.
Correct.
I see that our inspector, Mr. Morris, also investigated the matter.
And he's present.
Would you like to continue?
I don't think we have anything further. I think the board has the issues before. I think there's proof within the package to show there was a non-consent tow. There was a signature, I think, from the bill manager, which leaving a unlicensed 2014 vehicle in the lot for almost 3 years, 2 years, that'll get codes on you every day. I'm defending a case like that right now where codes is on someone, and we follow the proper procedure as it relates. It's our position. We follow the proper procedure as it related to that. I have no further proof for the board unless they want to ask.
What about the notice to the owner?
Notice to the owner?
Once it's been towed.
We did do notice to the owner back in 2006. In 2016, when it's towed, we do not have that paperwork, could not produce that. So what we did is then again did the notice again and did the notice in May, and went through that procedure again, notified Mr. Abidi, and went through that. So we actually did it twice.
Was it successful in May?
Pardon me?
Was notice provided to Mr. Abidi in May?
Yes, sir.
I have not received no notice based on the report I got from the License Commission. The mail returned it to them, and it was just, they did send a letter on May 8, 2017, and the car was towed June 16 based on the receipt I got it. So they've never did anything. They never did anything. You know, if they would.
When was the vehicle towed?
I believe it was towed in June.
It was June of 2016.
June 16.
The vehicle was towed June of 2016.
And we got a bunch. We got 2 returned addresses in the mail. And then he sent us a registered letter, so that's how we got his address to send him
For the May.
notice.
Yes, sir.
To give him time to come pick it up.
The first notices that went out, did they go to Minnesota or did they go to somewhere in Tennessee?
I actually have to look at the paperwork.
I don't have the paperwork in front of me, Mr. McNally, but I believe it did go. We did try to send some to Minnesota, and it came back. It came back unclaimed, and then when Mr. Abidi contacted us, we used the address off of that, then sent notice at that point and got it to him and gave him an opportunity to come claim it or do what he wanted to do at that point.
But the company has not been able to locate the paperwork from the original notice that it was sent.
No, not from 2016. We have not.
Mr. Fields, remind the commission what the process is for a non-consent towing company to put the owner on notice, and what happens when they get return mail and they're not able to put the owner on notice. What else does the company have to do?
I'm probably not the expert on it, but it's what I understand is you have to make a good faith effort, which means you contact the state of Tennessee in a case like this. You would then put together a communication to the owner once the state comes back with information, and you'd have to send to that particular address that's listed. If there is no response, the vehicle under state law will end up reverting to the company itself. And they would have the right to auction it after a certain amount of time.
And we did not attempt to auction or do anything with it until after we actually, Mr. Abidi actually got notice when we got a letter from him, so we did not take any action or do anything.
Again, I object. I've never received any notice. The reason I got with the notice was when he made the report to the police, and the police provided express towing. The same day, I sent certified letters to the company. It was delivered April 25th. I provided my correct address. They used my address to send a certified letter. For some reason, based on I tracked the track number, it went back. I don't know what they did. And again, they requested information back to the state. If I'm correct, it was May 23rd, 2017. They asked if this is the correct address. The email says, yes, this is the correct address. Again, I don't know what they did, but everything started after I filed auto theft report. They cannot provide an impound report number. If they could provide impound report number back 2016, let the commission see. And in my understanding, this is auto theft. You can't have someone's car. It doesn't matter. The car is custody under 10 cap. It was good shape. I can bring 20 or 30 witnesses. I have multiple communication with the managers.
I'm sorry, 20 or 30 witnesses to?
Who saw the car good condition sitting in the lot. My brother is truck driver. He used frequently comes here in Nashville. He always go over it and see it. He's the one who is the member of the company for the last 4 years or 5 years. So you cannot come up here and say we send notice and we don't have record. Police. If someone makes auto theft something, when you make report, what they do is they look your tag number and they find out this vehicle is already towed because they have to report within 1 hour. That's the rule. So they never did back 2016. They never did when I make the report. Everything started when I wrote those certified letters. So there's really nothing else I could say. Based on them, their negligences, I wrote all these ordinance they broke. And what I'm asking right now is, since the vehicle was good condition before they took, I want them to repair every part that they sold. In my understanding, I think they sold. I want them to provide the camera when the car was towed in. I want them to provide who made the report, who they reported to the, you can't take the mic, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, you cannot take the mic. Can I repeat all what I said, or you could hear?
We could hear.
Okay. So the matter right now is I'm not here, came from Minneapolis to come here to testify. Two things. One thing was exit for them to exit out, to reimburse, to compensate everything that vehicle I put it in. The second one is this should not happen to someone else again, because you cannot have, if I would do that one and get someone's car and keep somewhere unlocked almost a year, and when I find out you have my car, it's purely auto theft. The police, I think, in my understanding, he should make the report at that spot when Ahmed called, because he basically went licensing commission website and called every towing company. Hello, you have that VIN number? Hello. He's been waiting 2 hours sitting in the parking lot when he found out, express towing. So when now the owners coming up and they indicating that area is bad. I live that area almost 8 years. It is not suitable area, but that property, there are multiple tenants, and the only one that my car has custody was 10 cab. I can't speak other tenants. I can't speak building owners. If the building owners are the one who made it to tow the car, they have not followed the procedure, my understanding, and I want my vehicle to be reimbursed.
I think Mr. Abidi, if he wants to pursue this matter, I think he needs to pursue this either circuit court or civil court. He's asking this commission to award money damages, and that's, I think if he's got a gripe, that's where it should be. It's our position. We've done what we should do, and I think the board's got all the facts before it.
Thank you. Mr. Morris, would you like to report your findings for the record? You can have a seat, sir.
Inspector Howard Morris, Transportation Licensing Commission. Upon receiving the complaint, I went out to Express Towing and interviewed Mr. Trotter. But instead of me, everybody has a copy. Would you just like to enter this in, or you want me to go through it all, sir?
No, that we can just enter it in. I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure the commission had an opportunity to ask you any questions.
Absolutely, sir. Okay.
I had a question regarding the lot itself, and I'm trying to figure out who, if you were able to determine who contacted Express Towing about removing the vehicle. And I see in your report you mentioned a Mr. Hoey who signed the slip, but you also write that that Mr. Hoey told Mr. Newman, who was the building manager, that Express Towing would not tow it without his signature, even though they knew he was not authorized to sign.
Yes, sir. Mr. Newman is actually in charge of having anything towed out there. He is the building manager, lot manager. As far as Mr. Hoey is concerned, when they're doing non-consent tows, then the individual that signs that has to be approved to be able to sign it. So just you and I being out there working, we couldn't just sign it unless the manager actually had approved us to sign for a non-consent. That's what that actually means. And Mr. Newman is here.
Who he is?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think we should hear from Mr. Newman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Newman?
And Mr. Newman is not,
He's the building
doesn't have
manager.
the authority?
No, Mr. Newman's the building manager. We'll find it.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Newman, you've heard the testimony from Mr. Abdi and also from Express Towing today, correct?
Yes, I did, but I can barely hear everything back there. But
Can you tell us whether or not Express Towing, that you called Express Towing, or who contacted Express Towing about removing the vehicle from the lot?
we did call towing companies, and I believe it was Express Towing. This is more than about a year ago. And I told my staff that if there is a vehicle that's there for extended period of time, they have it towed. But when they came to tow it, I was not there. So a year later, they came and they got a signature from one of my staff that we have authorized it, but that staff member was not there back here. He was not an employee back then. That's the, and I asked my employee, why did you sign that paper? This was done in 2016, and you were not here in 2016. He said the agent or the employee of Express Towing would not leave until he has some kind of signature. His name is Anthony Hedges. So he signed that. Yes, we did call to have the vehicle towed about a year ago, but when they came to tow, I was not there.
So if I understand correctly, the towing slip that we had before us was signed in June 2017.
Yes.
By Mr. Anthony Hodges.
Yes.
But you are stating that you did contact to have the vehicle removed from the property.
Yes.
Back in June 2016.
Yes.
There needs to be someone who is, let's see, here's the, or designated agent. Since he called and he told someone else to sign it, that would have been a designated agent, correct?
Well, I think under the rules for non-consent towing, it says the rule reads, prior to towing a vehicle from private property without the vehicle's owner's consent, the towing company must have express written authorization for towing that vehicle from the owner of the private property or designated agent. So what we have is a situation where there was authorization. It was not in writing, but it was 1 year later. I mean, it does not look like that would violate Rule 24. But I'll let other commissioners look at the rule.
Can I get a little clarification on the facts, maybe? The vehicle's towed when?
2016.
2016, June of 2016.
Yes.
The person came back in 2017 to get something written or get somebody's, Mr. Hodges' signature.
Yes.
On the towing slip.
Yes.
And the towing slip is dated June 16, 2016. I realize you don't have it in front of you, but I'm looking at it here.
Yeah.
But Mr. Hodges' signature down here, authorization for towing, which doesn't seem to have a date around it, you're telling me was in 2017.
Yes. He was not an employee of the company in 2016, and he was not even there.
So he couldn't possibly have signed it in June of 2016?
No.
All right. But you did want the vehicle towed?
Yes.
All right. What is the area down there like? I mean...
It's a parking lot of a two-story building.
Yeah.
And mainly tenants that occupy the suites of the building, and also some taxi companies. Some taxi company vehicles
are on the lot?
Yes.
Okay. And this one?
Can you ask him what the condition of the vehicle was the last time he saw it?
Do you remember this particular vehicle? Well, you were wanting to have it towed, so you must remember what it looked like.
I barely.
Barely? Okay.
It's been a while.
What do you remember?
I remember that it was yellow, maybe a little bit white on some of the sides. I do not recall that it has been damaged or that the door was missing. All the vehicles that I have them towed from the property have doors.
Why did you want it towed?
It's been there for a while.
And you knew it wasn't part of 10 cab?
I knew it was. It didn't have a 10 cab sign that I recall, and any vehicle that's there on the property for extended period of time, I just don't want them in the property.
Did it look like it was abandoned?
It did.
Okay.
Just to clarify, the lot is not strictly a 10 cap lot, though.
No, it's
other
not.
tenants in the
No, it's not. 10 cab is the one of the tenants.
But not the sole.
They're not the sole.
And I think if I remember correctly, 10 cab, the drivers own their vehicles, don't they? And they usually take them home with them?
In most cases.
In most, yeah.
Some do and some don't.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Newman.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Do the commissioners have any other questions from the witnesses or for the parties? Before we make a motion, I do think it's important that we state that this is not a court of law. You know, before us is whether or not one of our rules has been broken. Mr. Abdy, you may want to pursue a civil action against Express Towing. That's your right to do so under the law, but your request for monetary relief from us is well outside our jurisdiction. All we can do is decide if, in fact, Rule 24 was violated.
What about all those other ordinances that I put it with? They have to report police impound. They towed with non-consent based on, right now they fabricated the signature, they fabricated the date. That's basically forgery. I'll be happy to take this case to the court, but there are other ordinances that I pointed out that has been broken. When they tow the vehicle, they have to keep the record. They have to keep the time, the day they reported. They have to keep the lot, impound, whatever report number. They have to. All these things have been broken, and multiple ordinances that I put it have been broken. I'll be happy to pursue my case to the court of law, but this was a start. And when you say there's only one rule has been broken, I see right now there's multiple rules have been broken. Based on the signature, they should date the signature 2017. It shouldn't be dated in 2000 someone signed. So I'll be happy to.
First of all, I never said that the signature was dated for 2016. It's dated that the towing occurred in 2016.
Okay. But when they signed was the signature date says 2016. That's the report I got.
I have a question. What is our burden of proof required? I mean, being a lawyer, I kind of look at the burden of proof. I mean, in the previous complaint, it was very obvious, and I wasn't concerned about it because there was an admission by the offending party. I just was curious, what is our burden of proof in this matter?
Burden of proof, typically for any of our commission hearings, is what we believe is reasonable, that you don't act in an arbitrary or capricious manner in any action that you take. If you determine and you reasonably believe that there's been a violation, typically that's been enough for us to take it to the next level if there's an appeal. Today you've probably got a couple of things to look at from my perspective. Was it a legal non-consent tow? Clearly we don't have a good record of that. It may or may not have been. However, Mr. Newman says it was a legal non-consent tow, even though he can't produce the paperwork. Ideally, the paperwork would have been presented to us. I think you've got the issue of they're required under the ordinance to make a good faith effort to protect property. But you've also got conflicting reports on was the property that is allegedly being taken, was it there to start with? Again, we weren't present. I think more troubling is the fact that I've got a document in front of me that I didn't know until today was a document signed a year later, and I wasn't advised it was signed a year later. So I'm a little more concerned about that at this particular moment. Is had they said we went back and we signed this in this June, but it really happened last June. Did I misunderstand? Have I missed that?
Now, that appears to be what
It was dated the date of the tow, but it was signed a year later.
And then finally, for the record, 6.80185A talks about this, except otherwise provided in subsection B or C of this section. For each vehicle towed by a towing service, the licensee shall retain at the licensee's principal place of business all documents related to the towing of the vehicle, along with any record pursuant to this chapter, including but not limited to towing agreements, written authorization for removal, record slips or tickets. Such records shall be maintained for not less than 1 year. And again, clearly we don't have a side in this, but if June 16th was the date, then if that was the original date, then it clearly we're after a year. So they're obligated to keep those records until June the 16th.
And may I address the board to try to clear up an issue? I'm being told by our clients, we do have the original that was signed that day on 2016. We did obtain the signature date on the day it was towed. It did comply with the law. If y'all want to hear some proof.
Why then do we have a second one signed by Mr. Hodges a year later?
Well,
if you'll stand up, sir.
Come to the stand.
We went down and got a second one drawn, but I didn't know what we'd got into on this first situation on the ticket. I didn't know who signed the ticket. I had to find the ticket. This is a year later. I had to find the ticket. I had to look at the ticket. I had my wife to take the ticket, the original ticket, back to the man on Plus Park Boulevard and make sure he signed that ticket. He went on and signed another ticket. I've got the original ticket, but I hadn't got it with me. I thought Mr. Lewis had the ticket, but evidently he's not got it. But I've got the original ticket.
Who signed the first ticket?
I don't know his name, sir.
We'll gladly produce it for the
I got it.
We were in no way trying to be deceptive with the board or anything like that, so.
I think Mr. Fields summarized this case quite well a few moments ago and hit on the one thing that I was most concerned about, because I always get very suspicious when people go back a year later to get something signed. It's a CYA maneuver. But whether it's relevant to the issues that are before us that Mr. Fields summarized, I don't think it is.
But I think the proof is undisputed. We did have permission to tow him from the building manager. He called and told us that, so. But we'll gladly produce any additional evidence the board wants.
Do we need a motion to dismiss the complaint?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to dismiss the complaint based upon the evidence that was presented to us here. I find that from Mr. Newman's testimony as well as the other testimony, there was a legal non-consent towing. I think there was a good faith effort to notify the owner of the vehicle. And finally, I find the evidence very conflicting, confusing as to the condition of the vehicle, the abandoned vehicle, when it left the premises and was towed by express towing. I guess that's a motion along with finding my own thoughts. Sorry.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes.
We do have a couple of more issues, I think. Mr. Lewis might
Can I
want to
get my documents back?
Sure. Hold on, Mr. Beatty. I will grab it out of this file over here for you.
If I may, well, as he's doing that, because again, I think I can summarize and then he'll have his comment. During this investigation, we determined that there were some additional problems that we observed, including vehicles that were not properly marked at the time, then would also include vehicles that had not been registered with the commission. We also determined that there had been several times that we're reasonably sure the credit card machine was not working, and we would, again, they're not the sort of things that the world doesn't turn or not turn on those particular issues, but there's certainly issues that are very critical to us in our operations, making sure that all the vehicles that are in service are registered, are marked properly, are licensed, and then insured. So it's the public safety issue, and Mr. Lewis has got some information he wants to share.
May I distribute some paperwork that
Yes.
approach to the board? I want to deal with the credit card issue first. And I'm sorry for not getting this in advance. I was retained a couple of days ago and was hoping to get a continuance, but I heard Mr. Abidi was have bought a flight, so I've rearranged my schedule this afternoon to be before the board and do this. What I've presented, first of all, is the policy, or a sign that hangs above the customer window. On the second part, I have produced what are called the batch reports for the credit card to show that they do have a credit card machine, have been using it. They have experienced some technical difficulty with the credit card machine, and they have been working with the processor to try to get that resolved. This shows a fairly consistent pattern of where they've been using the credit card machine through May, June, and at some points in July. I have also got I guess receipts or invoices showing they have showing they've had a credit card machine for several years, and I have the contract attached at the very back showing they've had a credit card machine since I think a contract since 2012, and I also got an actual picture of the credit card machine in the office. So we've been trying to comply. We have had some difficulties with the processor, but I think we've got those worked out at this point, and that's where we are with that. Would like to address the issue of the registration. And I might have worked, I need to put a microphone, I'm sorry. Mr. Fields and I might have come up with a solution to this prior to the hearing. I would like to point your attention, first of all, to the license. And if you will look at the license on the top, Express Towing and Recovery, parentheses, ETR. That's the way their license reads. They have, it's my understanding that they had branded some trucks with just was it just ETR on it, Commissioner?
Well, some that didn't have any markings at all, and then some that were ETR.
Some that were ETR. But what we have done for a remedial effort, when we were told, we changed all signage, everything, to include Express Towing and Recovery under it also. We thought it was fine just to use ETR since we had ETR on our license, and we have since gone to the expense of redoing everything we've got to read ETR and then specifically put Express Towing and Recovery under it. And I believe, are we in compliance right now?
Well, what we're going to need to do, I'm not certain how ETR, to be very honest with you, an error must have been made in our office, because the records in the office all talk about express towing. In order to make this appropriate and proper, we are going to need another application that actually specifically talks about ETR. Okay. Again, I can't answer. There are no records in our office that indicate ETR. And again, they're just not there. So, but that is remedied by them reporting it to the commission. Anytime there's a name change, substantial change to a application, we require, just as we do every month, there's almost always one, somebody comes in and says, we'd like to change our names. Not an issue, except it has to be on the record. Vehicles, and again, I would have to defer back to an inspector. I saw a couple of heads nodding. I'm not sure what they want to talk about and not talk about. We do have some vehicles. We had some vehicles that we did not have record of in the office that I believe were operating as records in Nashville. They would also need to be marked, and I suspect they probably have been. I also suspect I probably have all that paperwork in the office by now.
Can I say something?
Come to the microphone, Mr.
We're not changing our name, we're just abbreviating it. Just like NES, Nashville Electric Service. I mean, we're not changing the name.
I understand.
I mean, if it's going to be a problem, I can have all the trucks related.
It's
no
actually,
problem.
it's the issue of public identification. That's what it amounts to.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that's the proof we have from forward.
Mr. Fields, you mentioned that in investigating the complaint by Mr. Appy, you discovered that there were some vehicles being operated that were not
We believe there were,
registered.
Mr. Morris, you come back up. If I may, were there vehicles, did you observe vehicles that did not have the appropriate decal on it?
Yes, sir, one.
Okay. Did it have any markings on the side to indicate either ETR or express towing or anything?
Yes, sir.
We do have a problem in Davidson County with records that are running without, there's no excuse. It is not compliant with our ordinance for any record to be in operation in Davidson County without appropriate markings unless they're in another county and come in fewer than 5 times a month. I've worked very closely with Mr. Mann in the last 5 years. I think they recognize, I personally inspect their records every year to make sure that they're meeting the standards of this board. And, you know, I'm not questioning whether or not they're operating, they're not making effort, but I do believe we had at least a record and that was not marked properly and we want to make sure, one, that we've got those records in place and that the commission be advised of it.
Any previous complaints before this investigation?
Like many situations we have people who will make a complaint about various things. Most of them are unsubstantiated. Some of them that we've investigated, not with them, with them and with others, would be ones that there would be either communications mistake or what we thought was an honest mistake. Typically, any complaint that we believe sustained, we're going to bring to the commission if we believe that it's something we have evidence for. And again, in this particular case, the two things that since we had them coming, we thought we'd add in, because no reason to make them 2 trips. We do believe there were problems with the credit card machine. They've certainly shown that they're making efforts to do that, and I'm confident that it'll never be broken again. But I do have one vehicle that, is that vehicle been registered and has it been marked?
We actually have we've actually bought a couple wreckers, and he probably seen one of our newer trucks that wasn't marked. But we have since tried to take them down there and get a permit put on them. And because the title says ETR on them, it won't let us permit them. So they've been parked, both trucks. And I apologize if y'all did see a truck with no markings on it. It wasn't intentional. It was probably just being brought from maybe Crouch's or commercial truck or something like that. You know, we've been in business since '02. You know, that's a long time. So we pretty much know the rules, and we know not to be impounding or towing or anything without, you know, a truck with decals on it. But if you assume that was taking place, I apologize, and you won't have to worry about that again.
Was there did you observe it with a vehicle on hook, or was it just on the lot?
It was on the lot. Okay. There was also a vehicle that had express towing actually written out on it, did not have ETR on it. Okay. So there's 2 different decals on the vehicle.
And we do need to, that issue we will resolve quickly on the markings.
Okay.
That's what we found.
Thank you. Does anyone on the commission want to make a motion regarding the findings from Mr. Fields and Mr. Morris and the statements from Mr. Lewis about ETR's efforts with regard to Mr. Morris and Mr. Fields' findings?
Do we have to take any action?
The commission's authority extends to taking no action or taking action, or even though it's not specifically an issue or a way, I think you could actually retire our charges or our concerns, complaints. You could also do that. You could determine that there is you could place them on probation, you could suspend them, you can revoke them.
What would be the easiest way for you to be sure that they're in compliance with the concerns that you've raised?
I think the simplest, and they might object and not think it is, I think the simplest is to allow me to have a probationary period for me to observe very closely. And if there are any issues, that would, when a company's on probation or a driver's on probation, they have an immediate trip back. There's not any question at that point. If a complaint comes in, we bring them back. Then you hear the complaint once we've determined it. I always am concerned, and more concerned now than ever, about trucks running in Davidson County without proper markings. I'm certainly not questioning whether or not they're telling me the truth. I've not had a problem with Mr. Mann since I've been back in terms of, in the dealings I've had with him, he's done what I've asked him to do. But I do think they had a truck on the street. It's knowing the business and knowing as busy as they are, I would find it surprising that they didn't have at least 1 or 2 cars towed with that record without their appropriate, not because they're out saying I want to break the rule, but because I've got to get this car moved.
What period of time do you want probation?
To
feel comfortable.
I'm always a year guy, but that's just what I like because it's easy for me to work with. By the same token, I think the commission has to make a determination. One, if they believe that we have an issue. Again, I'm not seeing Mr. Mann,
Yes.
and I do not want to bypass his attorney, and he'll probably tell him not to speak. Do you have an issue, if we were to place your company on a probationary period, would you have an issue working with our office to make sure
I have
everything?
no problem with that whatsoever.
What would be, if you were, I'd like to do this if you don't mind. Well, if you were going to place yourself on probation, would a year be unreasonable for me to look at?
I mean, I would think so. A year, maybe
You'd feel
6 months.
That's better. Sounds like
I would-
better.
Because the commission has not had, on this particular issue, and because of an admission, if the commission were to place them on 6 months, basically in an agreed order with the company, I'd be satisfied with that.
I think that makes a lot of sense, just from a reporting standpoint and making sure that the rules that we've determined. Well, I guess we haven't made a motion yet, but to the extent we determine there's been a rules violation, then putting the ETR or express towing on a probationary period would make it easier to enforce to make sure those rules aren't broken.
Okay.
I would make a motion that concerns have been raised by the investigator and executive director of the Transportation Licensing Commission regarding express towing. And I would make a motion to put them on 6 months probation with one condition, that they provide to Mr. Fields proof that the credit card machine is working monthly over that 6 month period of time, and that they provide some pictures that all vehicles are labeled or identified correctly.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda, we have a public hearing to consider a request for wrecker towing services prices to be changed. Mr. Fields?
This is certainly much less a complicated issue. Anytime we raise the rates of towing in Davidson County, it does present an interesting opportunity. The last time these rates were raised were actually the first month when I returned in July of 2012. You agreed to recommend to the Metro Council a price increase. The emergency companies have approached the commission staff, have presented a document making suggestion of what those rates should be recommended to the council. Their president, leader of the group, Mr. Mitchell, is present. There are a couple of things we wanted to, that were left off, we want to add, but he's present to discuss the individual rates. The commission does not have the authority in most cases in this ordinance to establish any rates whatsoever. Towing rates have to be approved by the Metro Council.
So the council is simply wanting to know whether we approve that they should be increased.
We would, if you agree, and whatever you agree, whether it's this, less, or more, that would be what we would take. We'd work with legal staff, we'd draft a ordinance revision and take it to the Metro Council for its consideration.
We've received 2 requests to speak, one from Mr. Mitchell, also from Mr. David Williams. We'll hear from Mr. Mitchell first.
Appreciate y'all's time. I'll try to make this brief. I'm the president of the Davidson County Emergency Towing Association. That's the zone towing companies. And of course, what we're requesting is a rate increase for several of the items that we have listed. And of course, the reason we've been 5 years since we've had an increase, and the reason we're requesting it, of course, is we've received so many increases. And I'm sure you're all aware of it. Everything from our property taxes to our insurance to our cost of operations have just gotten extremely high. So we're requesting these increases, and we believe they'd be very fair and very reasonable increases. And we appreciate y'all considering them.
Mr. Mitchell, in addition, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, may I address Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
I'm sorry. In addition, there were a couple of things that were left out. You did want to recommend an increase of the daily storage
That's
plus
correct.
tax
Mm-hmm.
for cars that are towed, as well as a $50 fee for winching performed over 50 feet off the roadway.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's correct.
So that would not be in the original document that Mr. Mitchell provided, but in an email that he actually sent last week.
How much increase in daily storage?
We're requesting the $40, $10 increase.
So it'd go from 30 to 40?
Mm-hmm. Now, there hasn't been an increase in the 5 years. So.
What is the, on page 2 of the proposed, actually, I guess it's from you, your proposal says when use of airbags is required in special recovery circumstances, an additional rate of, and then it's got $3,000 as the current price and $5,000 as the new price?
Yes, that's correct. Now, that's a very occasional thing, which most of these are a very occasional thing, like the water vehicles and the burn vehicles. They're not something that 50–60% of our zone companies are not affected by this, but the companies that do the 18-wheelers, these are actually airbags that we use to raise an 18-wheeler when it's in an awkward position on the side of the interstate or road. And the cost of these airbags, we've damaged one ourselves in the process of doing this. And the airbags deteriorate. You don't use them but maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and they deteriorate, and you have to replace them. They have a shelf, I guess you call it shelf life on them. They have to be maintained. And if you don't have them in certain situations, then it increases your labor tremendously to do the jobs. So that's an occasional thing that happens, but that's rare. That's the reason that kind of increase is requested, just because of an increase we've had in the cost to buy the material that we use to do that with the airbags themselves.
How much are the airbags?
Complete set will run you about $15,000 right now. Now, you don't usually have to buy a complete set. You usually damage one bag.
Mm-hmm.
And a bag could cost you anywhere, depending on the size, of anywhere between $500 to $1,500.
Mr. Mitchell, if I may, on the storage, we recently had an issue on storage of a vehicle.
Yes, sir.
On a non-consent tow. We would also be dealing with non-consent towing rates as well in here, because it's part of the template that's in the council, or the template, but the rate range that's established by the council. We also would be dealing with the non-consent towing from private property storage. Are you satisfied? I see the towing would be a vehicle under, a car would be, for instance, would be $145.
Mm-hmm.
A vehicle over 7,000 pounds to be towed, again, over 7,000, I guess it's 3.5 tons,
Mm-hmm.
is $275. Over 26 would be $275, or up to 26, $275, and then over 26, it's $375.
Mm-hmm.
Then the storage for a car would be $30 per day for a non-consent.
That actually should have gone to 42.
Well, that was one of the questions that I had. Then secondly, should there be a different rate listed, for instance, if you tow a tractor and trailer into your lot or into one of the other lots, should that not be a higher rate from the standpoint of a tractor trailer, I assume, would take 3 spaces?
It takes 2 to 3 spaces depending on the size. Just the tractor itself would take. And what we've done is we've separated. We believe that the tractor should be a $60 storage, and the trailer should be a $60 storage.
Okay.
And mainly because the tractor itself is way more than 1 car space. It's a minimum of 2 car spaces. And of course the trailer can be anywhere between 40 feet to 53 feet. So it can be 3 car spaces very easily. So it's $60 per tractor or trailer.
So basically, we would have a $40 for a car. And then it would be $60 for any another vehicle other than a car or a truck. Anything that's going to go to the 26 feet and above is correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
So would it be simple enough and explain, because again, and they all know that all the record companies that are here know what I'm talking about. It gets very confusing at times when they're trying to explain to somebody why their vehicle is being towed and then why it's this price. I just want to make it simple. Is so the car would be 40 and a car or a normal passenger truck would be 40.
Yes, sir.
Then anything else would be 60 per day after the first 2 hours.
That's correct.
Are there any instances of vehicles that should be higher than $60 a day on a non-consent from your perspective?
Well, I mean, there's some large boats and stuff that have to be moved from time to time, but it's so rare. It's usually under contract when you do them, so most of the time it's not.
So a $60 fee, if it had to be charged, would not be an unreasonable?
No, sir, it would not be unreasonable.
I don't see anybody saying no, saying they disagree, but okay. Again, I know that's a fine point, but those are the points we deal with every day. So we're trying to make sure we've got.
The administration fees was one thing we were concerned about too. You know, we're very concerned about that. We're asking for $35 for the first contact, the first mail out, and $25 for any additional ones after that. And of course, I have examples of some of them that we actually pay $20 on some of them ourselves for the mail out to go to the other states, out-of-state companies to do that with.
You had brought that to our attention actually at the last meeting.
Yes, sir.
And said you would bring it to the next meeting, and he's here.
So you're asking just for us to approve this so that it could go to city?
Well, for you to consider it, make whatever changes you want to have, if you agree with it. From an administrative standpoint and from an office, we can evaluate and evaluate. They haven't had an increase. Most of them are in the range of 10% or something like that. Clearly expenses have gone up. I recall in 2012, because it was the first meeting I came back to be your director, I was a little surprised it was not raised more at that time, and asked that question. I believe I asked that question. I'd have to go back and look, but I believe I said, "Are you sure this is the right fees?" And they agreed at the time it was enough. He said that he came back this time and said we need some more. They do provide the service for the city. What we're compensating them for is to be ready at a moment's notice to retrieve any vehicle that the metropolitan government's police officers or any other county law enforcement in Davidson County ask them to tow.
I make a motion that we approve the.
Well, it's a public hearing right now, so we'll have to close the public hearing, but we do have one other person who's requested to speak. So thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Appreciate it.
Unless they're going against it, I don't know if I would.
Mr. Williams, David Williams.
David Williams.
I'm sorry.
I'm just here to support Jim's idea for a rate increase. I have a couple numbers just to throw out at you. A flatbed truck in 2012 cost $73,000. Now it costs.
Mr. Williams, so you support Mr. Mitchell's
I totally
position?
support his.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to hear from you unless you really want to say.
I was about to make a motion to approve this.
I'm going to go sit down, and you guys have a great day.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this matter? At this point, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for deliberation amongst the commission, or if anyone would like to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the increase in rate.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes that the commission approves of the rate increase and can, Mr. Fields can communicate that to Metro Council.
We will.
Next item on our agenda involves taxi cabs. We've been asked to review management and address, an address modification from Checker Cab, as well as a management modification from Checker Cab. Mr. Fields.
Checker Cab is asking that you accept their address change from where they have been for several years to 4901 Lindbar Drive in Nashville 37211. They're also asking that Jonathan Mulageta be recognized as the general manager of the company. And it is in order, but it has to be presented to the commission and accepted.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We also have some other passenger vehicles for hire company applications. The first is Elite Music City Fleet. Mr. Fields.
Yes, let me, if I can, normally we would take them together. Let me just, Elite Music City, no, I'm sorry, Black Ice, let me take Black Ice Livery is applied to be a passenger vehicle for hire company. Their application's in order.
And Elite Music
Well,
City
it's
as
in order. We also have 2 drivers to go with that.
Okay.
So I wanted to make sure you need to hear those separate.
All right. Sorry, Mr. McNeil.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion passes. Now we have Elite.
You want to take a vote?
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. It has been a long afternoon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we've got a company application from Elite Music City Fleet.
Elite Music City Fleet has applied to be a for hire company in Davidson County. The company application is in order. However, the two their owner as well as their as a driver application needs to be reviewed. So you can deal with the company and then you can deal with the drivers, or I can just present it all at one time and you can pass it as a package if you choose.
I think
Or consider it as a package, I should say.
we can consider it as a package.
Okay. Derek Clendenning is the chief executive officer of the company. In his application, Mr. Clendenning failed to disclose a 2008 reckless driving as well as a 1998 possession of a narcotic equipment. Mr. Clendenning, you present?
Yes, sir.
Please come up.
Okay. How you doing?
Hello. So why didn't you disclose those charges from?
Because I pled guilty to another charge and I put that one on there. I didn't know I need to put the other charge on there. That was my mistake. But I did go downtown to get a copy of my record, and I tried to turn my whole copy in. They told me I had to write it myself down.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. I guess we should clarify, what did you move to approve? The package or?
The package.
Well, we do have one more. Well, that's fine. We can do that, then we'll take the other driver.
All right. So, motion passes with respect to Elite Music City Feet's company application as well as your driver application.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Clendenning.
The other driver is Kenneth Flanoy.
That'll be me, sir.
In his application, in keeping with your request, if it's lengthy, we bring it to you for your review. There are, on the face of it, there are no, and I'm just reviewing it a second time, or maybe a third or fourth time, there are no charges on here that are an automatic, that would prohibit him. However, he does have a history that we wanted to make sure was brought to your attention.
Suspended license, suspended license, suspended license. What was that all about?
Well, Your Honor, I was behind on my child support, and once you're behind on your child support, they will suspend your license. Well, I've been current with my child support, hadn't missed the payment. I'm almost done. My second son has graduated high school this past May, and I have 2 more boys. I have custody of them, just trying to raise them right and do right, trying to maintain my license. Sorry that it took me a while to obtain them, but I have them and I hope to keep them.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
You're old. Everything's old.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Commission.
Thank you. Next, we've got a consideration for and notice from the limo company of Nashville wanting to add an additional partner, Emmanuel Victor Hugo Miranda.
It goes the same as always. If a company chooses to add someone to the application, it has to be presented to the commission for its review.
Is there a motion regarding the application?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. We also have driver applications for other passenger vehicles for hire by Quentin Randall Mullins and Charles Gear Stocker IV.
Mr. Mullins?
Yes, sir.
In making his application, Mr. Mullins failed to list a couple of things, a 1992 domestic charge and 1983 DUI.
My turn in the Coliseum.
Yes, sir. You can make a statement if you like.
I just whichever one you want me to address first. The domestic issue, I'll take. Young couple. Probably a money argument, as a lot of young couples do. So much had happened in between that time. Part of it, my wife passing about 7 years ago. We got into an argument. Marilyn actually slapped me. Good-sized boy, I can handle that. Then she got mad enough to threaten taking my 2 boys away, 2 infant sons, to a friend of ours' house. And I was raised in the foster systems in Virginia, 8 or 9 different homes. And so I have a real strong feeling about that. And I said, if you do insist on doing that, I'm going to call the police. So I called the police and told them what had happened and that she had slapped me. Colorado law at the time, the police officers informed me that if there's a domestic call made, somebody's going to jail. I didn't think it was wise to have my infant son's mother taken to jail. So I went to jail and was bonded out the next morning. Did a 6-month intervention with a guy that's still a good friend of mine today, Howard Schiff, at the Men's Center in Wheat Ridge, Colorado. And Marilyn and I never really had any problems from that point on. I had just recently bought a tractor and trailer that was worth more than our house, and had bought that house about a year before that. So yeah, there were a lot of things going on in our lives. Marilyn passed 7 years ago. I still had a couple teenage boys to raise. Have successfully done that. My youngest just became a minister in Colorado, and I still miss her like it was yesterday. We ran a trucking company successfully for over 20 years, and so that's the answer to that domestic call. That was just Colorado law, and so I went to jail. And so much has happened since then that it just wasn't even in my head. I didn't think about it. I did, however, tell you about the worst thing I've ever done is a felony conviction for distribution of a controlled substance. So I thought that was pretty good that I let you know about that. Life has been really different since I was that pup. I got the message. My dad has always been astounded that one year I was in prison, the next year I was in the White House having dinner with Ronnie Reagan. So I was able to do a play at Ford's Theater for about an 8-month run and get back to being an entertainer and doing what I do besides truck driving. I do have over 3 million miles of safe trucking under my belt. I didn't do that by accident. I did that by taking care of business. The next issue I'd like to bring for you was the DUI that never happened. And my mother, Madeline, was a deputy sheriff in Putnam County, Florida, just below Jacksonville. I had already turned in my chauffeur's license and got a new CDL, which was mandatory at the time. I had that CDL for the period of time before it was up for a replacement. Went in to get that done, and the CDC computer kicked it out, said that I had a DUI somewhere, Georgia, Florida, somewhere like that. Called my mother, who was still a deputy sheriff down there before she passed, and she gave me the number of Mrs. Whaley. I went to school with one of her sons down there, and she was captain of the Florida State Patrol. told her what had happened, that I just bought another new truck and wasn't able to renew my license. So obviously we're in a little bit of a panic. She called me back about 2 hours later and said it wasn't even you, Randall. The guy spells his name Quinton, Quinton. And within an hour or two, you'll be able to go back, get your license cleared up, and I did. And so I've been trucking ever since. And sorry. So these are just things that well, a year after Maryland, I lost my ranch. I mean, this horror story could go on, but it's been kind of an interesting period the last 6 or 7 years. But I've done it right. And these fellows that I'm trying to drive this, pretty exciting. They've got Tesla cars, electric, Nashville electric transportation, and I can finally get out of the trucks. I sold my last semi in October to a collector down in Louisiana. My sons and I have restored several, an 1980 Kenworth and a 1981 Peterbilt. No more trucks. I'm done. So this is my opportunity to move on to something else.
Yeah. Aside from the two that he didn't list, there's nothing that would prohibit him from being.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
passes.
And my employer was here,
Okay.
just in case you needed to know if he was still going to hire me. So
Thank you, Mr.
folks.
Mullins.
Do I wait for a letter or?
You can come to the office tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Next is Mr. Stoddard.
Present. In making his application to be a driver, he failed to list a 2008 registration expiration charge.
We send people to jail for that.
Can we entertain a motion?
Yeah.
Move to approve.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Thank you all
passes.
very much. Can I say something, please? I'm his employer.
Yeah, this is my employer.
Yes.
I've been here since 1:30. We've been trying to get him a permit for 2 months. And this is a lot of time.
Well, I will say that if Mr. Stoddard had correctly filled out his application,
I understand that,
it
but
would have been
sometimes
approved.
it's common sense. I mean, we've got, just to give a little bit of explanation of frustration as far as the ownership. I was vice president of the Tennessee Limousine Association for 3 years. We've got a tractor running down our streets, pulling a trailer with 20 people in it. I mean, first of all, to pull somebody legally in a trailer has to be a fifth wheel trailer, enclosed trailer, camper.
Well, I'm sorry, could you introduce yourself again?
My name is Tim Cassidy. I'm driving Nashville. We've got this tractor running down the road with no license. In order to haul more than 14 passengers, you should have a CDL with a P endorsement. You should also have a US DOT number. You should also have $5 million worth of insurance. And we're hauling people up here. I mean, we're constantly talking about public safety. We had the golf cart people here. And I understand we've got to accommodate a lot of people and move a lot of people, but public safety is thrown out of the window in Nashville, Tennessee. I see it every day. These golf carts run red lights, stop signs, everything. They just dart out in front of everybody. And not only the golf carts, the Uber X people, and the problem with it is they're not educated on what to do. They don't know how to drive at the airport. They don't know how to do what was, like this lady said, well, I didn't know that wasn't there. Well, that's not an excuse when you're a professional driver. When you're a professional driver, you're supposed to know where you're supposed to be taking your people, where you're supposed to be picking them up, where you can go and where you cannot go. And that's where my frustration is. Been here since 1:30 this afternoon, listening to a lot of stuff.
Well, Mr. Cassidy.
Yes, sir, and I'm sorry.
I don't know if you know this, but hang on.
I'm sorry.
We're all volunteers here. We're not paid employees.
I know that.
I'm a lawyer in private practice. That's
Yes.
my regular job. I could be in my office right now working for a living,
Correct.
but instead I've decided to volunteer my time. I I don't control the agenda necessarily that comes before the commission. We do have a responsibility as commissioners to uphold the commission's rules and to do what has been asked before us as commissioners, and we're doing the best we can. I appreciate the fact that this has been a long meeting, and I understand that that can be frustrating. I can understand that Mr. Stockard's issue was very short. It could have been completely avoided had he accurately filled out his application, and it would have been approved by Mr. Fields directly. I also understand your frustration about the tractor. The tractor is not before us today. It's not even before the commission. You know, that's being litigated right now. I'm sure you've read about things in the paper, but that's not before us today.
No, I understand that, and I apologize for taking your time. It's just my concern is sometimes in Mr. Fields' office, we could use a little common sense when it comes to an application that he put a felony on there, I believe it was, or what was
yeah, it was. There was a few other charges with the.
Just
now, if I may, I was going to let it go. He came in on June the 13th, made application. He went and got his fingerprints. We got the review on the 15th. He missed the agenda for July. I'm sorry that you had to wait. The commission has specifically said if something's left off the application, it will come to this group. As far as the other things, you and I have had many conversations. Uber and Lyft were clearly removed from our authority of this city. We were the first city in the country that passed laws to take care of it.
Yes.
You know that.
I know that. No, I'm not blaming the office on that.
No, don't blame anybody in metro government over that.
Well, no. The final thing is, if you were here at 1:30, you saw what it takes to get something done about the golf carts.
Yes.
If you have a problem and you see something you don't like, file a complaint.
Yes.
We just can't arbitrarily do things without that kind of scenario.
I understand that, and it is. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Next item on our agenda is under wrecker and towing services. We've got a number of driver applications. Mr. Fields.
The first one up is Justin Allen Hart. Mr. Hart, are you present? Sure. At the June meeting, you will recall Mr. Hart was not present. There was maybe some extenuating circumstances. When he was not present to hear a complaint, you suspended his permit until he appeared before the commission. He asked to appear back before the commission again. He explained there was confusion over that meeting, and so he's on the agenda to explain. We gave you the application back, or the consumer complaint was back in front of you from Advanced Towing regarding photography and photography of an individual whose car was being towed. So his permit's in a suspended state.
This is the alleged cell phone. I bought a traffic camera when I started working with tow companies. This traffic camera's actually, I know I'm going to count this, but this is going to be the second incident it saved me from. But I've got the video downloaded on flash drive. You're welcome to put it in your computer. Nothing in the video is inappropriate. It's 20 minutes from the time I picked her up to the Mercedes dealership in Franklin. You know, we get complaints all the time, drivers speeding, throwing stuff out our windows. You know, there was one time I was at Advanced Towing and the dispatch called. They said, "Where's Justin at?" He's like, "He's right here." And he said, "Well, I just had somebody call, said he was going down 24, speeding and throwing trash out his truck." And I said, "Well, he's been here for 2 hours." So, I mean, this stuff happens all the time. But just another complaint. I no longer work for him. I, you know, quit with him, things with him, just, that's another issue that I'm dealing with at the moment. But got the video here. It's 2 10-minute, the traffic camera loops every 10 minutes. Every time I would reach up to turn it on, she's like, "Are you trying to film me, take pictures of me?" I said, "No, ma'am, this is my traffic camera. It protects me and my employer from frivolous lawsuits." And like today, when I got a female customer riding in, she's going to be in the truck 20, 30 minutes. I feel comfortable turning my camera on. It's at least got audio. Now, there is a separate camera that I can plug in that will shine in that will record inside the cab, but it wasn't hooked up that day. I tried to explain that to her. And every time I reached up, to try to turn it on. She was like, "Don't film me, don't film." I said, "Ma'am, I'm not filming you." "Well, how do I know? How do I know?" And I was like, "Ma'am, I'm going to turn this on for my protection." I turned it on, and as soon as I turned it on, you hear me talking about the GPS in the truck, the traffic camera, and everything. That's the only thing we talked about on the video. Y'all can have a copy of it. I actually got 2 copies. You're more than welcome to keep a copy, but I know y'all don't want to take up 20 minutes of your time to watch the video, but feel free to.
I've never seen such a long list.
I'm not working. I got my the permit suspended since last month. So I got 2 interviews tomorrow because I told a couple companies I was had some issues to work out.
Which companies have you talked? Who do you anticipate working for?
ETR or Harpeth Towing in Franklin. I actually don't have to have a permit to work in Franklin, but I would like to keep my Davidson County permit because I live in Davidson County, and I'm familiar with all the roads here in Davidson County.
Davidson County, even once as a driver, you have to have a
I've worked for 3 separate companies since I got my permit back in, y'all gave it to me in March. I worked for Southside Towing, real good company. They were holding my job for me, but they had to keep the trucks rolling. Right now, they don't have a position. They said as soon as one comes open, I'm more than welcome to get it.
This is consent towing, right?
It'd be consent and non-consent. If ETR is a non-consent company, the other one was?
Southside, I've worked for Tow Pro and Advanced Towing.
Harpeth is not a non-consent since they're out of county, but ETR is a non-consent because they were just present a few moments ago.
Yep. I have a question on your criminal background.
Yes, sir.
I see that you have a possession of a handgun by a felon that was a federal prosecution.
Yes, sir. 2005.
Okay. What was the underlying felony that you were convicted of? I can't find that on your list.
It was just possession of the handgun. That was the only felony involved.
Well, wait a second.
I was a convicted felon in possession of a firearm.
Yeah, I'm asking you what you were convicted of as a felon.
96 charge for possession of a controlled substance.
96 charge possession. I see that down there with an asterisk. September 27th.
I had several before that, but I had a burglary in 94.
Well, yeah, I see the burglary. I just don't see the dispositions, but yeah. So the possession of a controlled substance was actually a felony. Possession of controlled substance for resale?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think I was like 21 years old when that happened. I'm 44 now and live a different life. I can say this. This is the first job I've had since I was 17 where I was actually excited to get up every morning and go to work. I used to work at McDonald's when I was 17, and I haven't had a job since that I was actually loved going to work. And got a lot of experience now, and I love towing, and I really love it.
If you choose to release his permit from a suspended state, you can require him to, you can assign him to a specific, in other words, whatever company he works for, you can ask that he be restricted to that company for whatever period of time you choose.
But we don't know which company he's going to work for.
No. It would not, normally what we would like is the company to be present. You can allow him to, if you wanted to remove his permit from his suspended state, you could require staff to only issue it after he is employed by a licensed company.
So
originally the permit was given where I was free to go find a job and work for anybody, and I'll question I'll be given that opportunity again. Give me time to find employment. I have to have the permit to get the job, and you have to have the job to get the permit. It's one big loop, I guess.
So if I understand correctly, Mr. Fields, and I may have not been at that meeting, but Mr. Hart's original driver permit request was considered in March and was permitted, and then it was suspended after we received a complaint, and Mr. Hart did not appear in June.
Correct.
Y'all sent a certified letter to my parents' house. I no longer live there. The address on my license is, everything has been changed to a new address. I didn't think to notify the record board of an address change, but I would like to do that today so there wouldn't be any confusion in the future.
Is Mr. Rivers here?
Well, Mr. Rivers, you actually heard all of his comments at the last meeting and did not ask him to return.
I think it's a frivolous complaint. I mean, like I said, I got the video right here. It's like nothing she said happened in the video. Nothing. I did not make any comments about her, or I mean, I'm asking y'all to watch the video, but I'm actually gonna leave a copy here. So
there's a complaint from Andre Rivers that
correct.
The commission heard testimony from, or heard a statement, and then there's also, it looks like, Rachel Wilson that made a complaint.
She did not make the complaint. She filed that. She actually gave that to Mr. Rivers. She was not available.
Well, she gave it to Nation Safe Drivers.
Correct.
And then Nation Safe Drivers told Andre, and then me and Andre got into it. I quit working with him, and he was, I believe, trying to be vindictive. Says, I believe Justin Hartz needs to get his record license revoked because of the seriousness of this matter. I don't understand.
You can tell that he must have said that in his electronic mobile device because your last name is Hartz, and instead of record, it's spelled record.
And serious, man, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Hart. Would anyone like to make a motion with regard to
I'm gonna leave this here.
Thank you.
the complaint against Mr. Hart?
Can I ask Mr. Fields a question first? What's the propriety or lack of propriety of the camera being used to film?
There's nothing in the ordinance one way or the other that would require it or not allow it.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people who would believe that cameras would be appropriate for protection of any kind of allegations, whether it be a driving issue or a passenger issue. So some of the taxi cab companies have them, for instance, for that very reason.
Have you had an opportunity to listen or view the
I did not get into it today.
video?
I have not. We would be happy to.
Because the allegation by Ms. Wilson does concern me. To discreetly taking pictures and what she reports to be the conversation. But, we've got double hearsay here from her to another reporting agency, then to Mr. Rivers. So I can't put much weight in what's written here.
Correct.
Well, my next question, I guess, would be, do we want to wait and see what's on that thumb drive, or?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. I mean, we don't necessarily have to wait a whole month. Somebody could craft a motion saying something like, if the video is consistent with Mr. Hart's testimony, then we could lift the suspension. If it's not, then he needs to come back before us next month.
Mm-hmm.
I've just asked our legal advisor if she and I, along with Ms. Stillman, could review we'll review the material he provided. If it substantiates what he says happened, basically nothing happened, then with your permission that we could then issue a record permit to a specific company that he brings in, and we can monitor that.
Mr. Hart, did you say there was audio on that video?
Yes, sir, there is.
Okay, that's all I need.
And the camera was always facing outward?
Yeah, I didn't have the camera that worked the cab plug-in. I've never really worn it at all. I haven't worked in a month. I got bills. I'm ready to go back to work. Whatever y'all can decide. I don't know.
We can move on quickly.
I will make a motion to ask the people who were previously identified to review the video, and if nothing on the video refutes what Mr. Hart has told us today, that the suspension be lifted. In other words, I'd call it a motion for conditional lifting of suspension pending your review of the video.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have a driver application for Danny Matthew Hines.
Should Mr. Hart contact you saying?
Ms. Ladd will not be available tomorrow, but we can review it Monday. Mr. Hart, yeah, we'll review it Monday, and we will contact you Monday, okay?
Okay.
And in the meantime, talk with the company so we can have it.
I've got an interview at Harkins in Franklin tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
Bring a document from them, okay?
Okay. Now, call me.
We'll take care. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have before us Danny Matthew Hines' application.
Yes, Mr. Hines made application, and I'm just trying to review very quickly, and I apologize, my notes are missing on this particular one. He failed to list. Mr. Hines, do you recall what you failed to list before we advised you?
Distribute to a minor.
I'm sorry?
You say the one charge I forgot to list?
Mm-hmm.
Distribute to a minor.
Okay.
Distributing to a minor?
Yep, for curfew. Yep.
Contributing to delinquency of a minor?
Yep.
Okay.
For curfew. Say that one more time.
What year was that?
I want to say it's 2013, maybe 2014.
It was contributed to delinquency in 2013. I'm sorry, my note just was missing.
What was your relationship to the minor?
He was just a friend.
How old?
He was 17 at the time, 16. 16.
And 16, 17?
16 at the time.
Right. Did you say something you kept him out at, or you were with him out past curfew?
Yeah.
What was the outcome of the case?
They just took him to juvenile and wrote me a citation.
Took you to juvenile?
Took him to juvenile and wrote me a citation.
And the outcome of the citation?
Just a little fine.
That's it, Mr. Fields?
That would be the only thing that was left out that we're aware of.
Okay, I also had underlined on mine the possession of revoked, suspended, or altered license, but I don't know if that was reported or not. Okay, it is. I move to approve the application. Mr. Hines.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next, we have an application that was deferred from last month. John Oscar Roberts, Jr.
Mr. Roberts, you present? John Roberts. It was deferred from the June meeting for not being present. Has he contacted our office? Okay.
Make a motion to deny.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have an application from Calvin Eugene Russell, Jr.
In making his application and doing our work, he does have an extensive record that would merit the commission review.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what you do today?
I work for Tow Pro. I'm kind of like a lot guy, wash cars or whatever. But in the past, I've driven. I've been a delivery driver, so I kind of that type of style truck. I know how to drive them, and I want to drive. I want to tow. I like the trucking field.
You keep getting stopped for driving on a suspended license.
Well, and I went for a period for like 8 years, 6 or 8 years or something. I didn't have any driver's license, and
But why do you keep getting stopped?
I mean they stop you for anything. And I think the last time I got a suspension, they stopped me for like a license plate light, the light on your license plate, and I didn't have any insurance, so I failed to pay the fine in time, and they suspended it. But like I like all that speeding and all that stuff, that was like years ago. I was young. I don't do stuff like that anymore. I mean, you know.
You got 1 felony?
No, I have 8.
8 felonies. Okay. I only saw the drugs, cocaine sale.
Well, that was the last. That was in 2010, and I've been an upstanding citizen since then. I've worked constantly. I worked for Tyson Foods for about 4.5 years, and since I left there, I've been kind of driving trucks. Like I said, a delivery driver until I applied for the tow pro. Have a DOT card.
Well, I see the 1998 drugs, cocaine sale. It was less than half a gram of cocaine in 2010.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not pretty, but like I said, for the last 7 years, over 7 years, I've been an upstanding citizen.
You on probation?
I am. I'm still on probation.
When do you get off probation?
Oh.
An hour from now?
I was trying to see the year, but it was in 2010. I got a 10-year sentence. I done a year in jail, so 4 years, 3 years maybe. Yeah.
Well,
No problems.
Wait. 2010, you got a 10-year sentence. Did a year?
Yeah, well, I think I went in 11.
Okay.
So I got out in 12. So, yeah.
And you had 10 years following the year that you were serving, or
No, I got a 10-year sentence.
kind of a split confinement?
A split
You do 1
confinement,
year
that's
and
what
then
it's
9
called.
years
Yes, sir.
probation. So 2019, you would come off to probation.
Yeah.
Is it in Davidson
What, 2
County?
more years? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, right here. No hiccups.
Or maybe-
No more trouble. None
So
of
it might be 2020 before you're off. If you played out in 2011.
That's right.
What is the
I don't ask Mr. Fields. That's my
What is
next
the
question.
offense that he's currently on probation for?
A drug charge. Sale.
Sale of half a gram or less of cocaine. You sure it's a felony, though, right? Well, I guess
It
it would
is a
be if it's
felony.
10 years.
I got 10 years for it. I hope it would have been a felony. I don't want to get 10 years for a misdemeanor. You know.
Well, there were quite a few misdemeanors right in there. There may be some concern whether you're eligible.
Well, I mean, they let me read the ordinance. I mean, I seen that it was like 5 years. Any of those offenses within 5 years, I hadn't been in trouble in over 7 years.
What date were you put on probation?
I don't know the exact day. I don't know that.
Well, what year?
It was in 2011. The charge was in 2010, and I played out in 11.
When we reviewed it, it appeared to us that it was outside the 5-year period that talks about being placed on probation. So when we reviewed it, and it's, again, it is extensive record, and we don't get the same, well, the information I have is a little bit different than I normally get. So we believe it was outside that 5-year period, which would allow him to be qualified.
Well, he entered his plea in 2011, went in to do a year in jail, was released in 2012. So, when were you released in 2000?
It was March.
March of 2012.
March, I think it was March the 13th.
So we're outside 5 years from being placed on probation.
What it says, and if this is in the rules, says an applicant shall be disqualified if the applicant has been convicted, pled guilty, placed on probation or parole, pleaded nolo contendere, or released from incarceration within a period of 5 years prior to the date of the application. And then it goes over the specific charges, and one of those charges is felony possession, sale, or distribution of narcotic drugs or controlled substances.
So
within 5 years of being placed on
Place.
probation?
That's the, again, that's been an issue that we've had before. Placed, we look, legal as advised, the place means actually, it speaks for itself. It's
Being
placed.
put on probation, yeah. Doesn't say off probation. It
Doesn't
says
say released
placed
from
on
probation or dismissed from probation. They talk about being placed on probation.
I think he's held.
Just barely.
Barely. You're eligible.
Barely.
ToPro and Cottons is present, who would be his employer. Again, they are present if you'd like to speak with them.
What court you out of?
I don't even remember. You're talking about the judge? I don't remember. I just pay my fees and see my PO, and you know, I really rather like leave that behind me. I mean, I'm pretty sure I could find out. I mean,
You
it's
still take drug screens?
yeah. I just recently had one with them. Yeah, I do all of that. Yes,
How
sir.
you doing on probation?
I mean, like I said, I hadn't been in anything. Actually, my probation officer came by the house yesterday.
Current on all your fees and
Yeah,
everything?
I'm fine. Everything.
He came to us about a month and a half ago. At first it was a no. He was persistent. We decided to give him a chance. He's been punctual. He has helped us out on some rec scenes as a laborer. He's done everything we've asked of him.
Was he upfront about his status on probation?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
You're good, Calvin.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have an application from David Ray Simpson for
David Ray
record towing
Simpson?
services.
In making his application, he failed to list a underage drinking charge. He was under 21, over 18, under 21. At first, we thought it was a juvenile charge, but it was not, and that's what he failed to list. So when he was under 21, he was charged.
I move to approve.
Yeah. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
You'll never forget anything on an application again. You had to be here for 4 hours for that.
Michael Lynn Vernon.
He's no.
That's right. He prior to the meeting, the applicant brought information from that he would not be applying today and working for that company.
Next, we have some, it looks like we have some announcements.
Yeah. This particular one, in your meeting next month, you're going to be asked for an annual meeting on pedal vehicles and on pedal vehicles. In this particular case, you have 3 applications so far. You have from Nashville Pedicab, Music City Party Bike, and Pedal Chariots. Those applications, the deadline was back in July, and we were just sharing those with you. No actions required on those at this present time. There will be an annual meeting next month.
Are you sharing or forewarning us?
Sharing.
Any other business, Mr. Fields?
In other business, a request was made by one. There may be as many as 3 additional requests that you lift the deadline that was imposed by the commission for application for pedal vehicles and low-speed vehicles for the annual meeting in August. I spoke with the chair, and he suggested as a public forum we would give them the opportunity to explain why the commission should consider revising the deadlines and changing changing it in order to meet their request. There are at least 2 today, I think. There may be as many as 3.
3 from 3 different, so 3
I
different
think so.
companies?
Mm-hmm.
Who missed the deadline?
They'll have to explain that. We don't know who missed, because we would not have accepted the applications when they weren't present.
Good afternoon, if I may. My name is Grover Collins. I appreciate the work you are doing, so I'll be as brief as possible. I represent Sip and Cycle, which was previously in operation and had some restrictions that we thought had been cleared up, and they were not. So their license actually did lapse. My client's name is Sonia Sloan, and she had conversations with Mr. Fields, and Not that Mr. Fields would ever give wrong information. My client simply misunderstood the information, was under the impression that there was no longer an avenue to which we could make application to such licensure. Once we realized that that was possible, it was yesterday. We talked with Mr. Fields. He said, come on down, make your petition to the board, and tell them what the issue was. Certainly, I'm not a proponent of ignorance of the law is no excuse. However, this will likely keep us from entering into a lawsuit. We are trying to mitigate our damages in this instance, and I think that I will get the application in whatever timely fashion this board would see fit. I can do that as quickly as y'all would need us to do so that you would have adequate time to review it before the next board, before the meeting next month. If you have any questions for me on SIP and cycle, I'm happy to address those at this time.
How long has SIP and cycle's been operating with 3 permits, but then
had 1 permit?
Had 1 permit?
Yes,
If I may, the SIP and cycle was one of the original pedal carriage companies that were approved by the commission back in October of 2015. Prior to the deadline, and actually a deadline that they failed to renew because they failed to actually complete the original application process. So the original SIP and cycle, not his client, failed to renew, so that their certificate became void when there was no renewal. When I was approached, I'm reasonably certain that, again, I can't recall the specific conversation, but I'm pretty good about reminding people of when deadlines are and asking what process are. And again, I remember speaking with her. I do not recall specifically saying whatever, that, you've had to file again. I know I would have said you'd had to file again because that one no longer exists. You set the deadline last October for the July meeting, the July deadline for the August meeting.
I was recently retained on this, and I don't know whether it was fake news or what, but I was mistakenly under the impression that there was a moratorium. Clearly, I relied on my client's understanding of her conversation with Mr. Fields, which was a mistake. We did our own investigation as we were preparing the complaint as it relates to transfer of membership interest in the SIP and cycle. During our diligence in finding that, we found the avenue that brought me here today to request that application process.
Companies, as we would have explained back during SIP and cycle, again, it would not have been with this client at that time. And companies can't be sold, can't be transferred. If they're sold or transferred, then they no longer exist. They have to come back to the commission. That's not happened yet with any of the pedal carriages. Again, SIP and cycle, we worked with them reasonably hard to get them renewed and get everything done. Not renewed is not the right word, to get them compliant the first time. Again, not his client.
When was the deadline? Yesterday?
The deadline was July the 10th at noon.
So they would have to wait until July the 10th of next year.
Well, depending on when the commission, I would anticipate in October or November setting next year's schedule. You could set the schedule, by your rule, you just have to have an annual meeting that would cover, that would be one of the annual meetings that you would have. So you'd need to establish a date. The reason it's in August is because you set it in August. It could be any other month that you choose.
And you're saying there are 3 companies here today who are
Well,
asking
again,
us
I think there's one more that missed a deadline for asking for additional vehicles. I don't know if the third company's here that is a new company that we had someone come in. The deadline was it was July the 10th, which was a Friday. They came in on Monday protesting that they missed the deadline and wanted us to extend it. We told him we couldn't, and he said he's coming to the meeting, so I didn't know if he was here or not. There is one other company here. I think Susan Pizzola asked to be heard today.
I'm her husband.
Okay. So Ms. Pizzola asked to be heard today, so that was the request I carried to the chair.
And coincidentally, I do have another client that would be Nashville Pedal Bike, where once we learned that there was an avenue to request, that company would also want to, that's separate and apart from SIP and cycle, but they would also benefit from the application being extended. I know that there are 3 on the agenda currently. I don't think it would overburden the board if we got those applications in within a timely manner, whatever time, again, that you saw fit.
Is it listed on the website?
I'm sorry?
Are the deadlines
The commission in its minutes passed it in October, then we placed it on the website, probably in November, December at the very least, of 2016. It's information on, it's with our calendars.
Do we want to hear the other one before we rule or anything?
Yeah, I think we should.
Why do you have deadlines if you're not going to keep them?
Let's just hear both.
I'm Robert Pizzatola. I'm husband of Susan Pizzatola from the Country Music Tavern. We missed it, the date. We knew about the date. Our daughter was in charge of doing the certificates for family-run business. We only have one bike in operation on the streets right now. But we got caught up in a kind of a perfect sea of events. She was getting married. I just returned from Afghanistan, and we had just gone through a probation period where we took a pretty big financial hit. We do have the bike here. We have our second bike, and we're asking for the permit for that. We have the application ready to go. Matter of fact, we pulled that bike out last night for the Bristol NASCAR folks. We took them on a special tour for promotion for them for the city. So we are asking that we, and we were the ones that came right after the period. I mean, we came back right off when everything started clearing up, and we said, oh my gosh. And my daughter called me and said, Dad, I forgot to do this. Susan got in touch with them, and we asked just for an extension over the weekend, and we were denied, but told we could come here and ask for consideration to get an extension. We have the application ready. We have the fee. We have the money ready for the application, just to put it in front of the board for that second bike. And we do ask that we are given this extension.
If you were to give an extension, that again, and I'm sympathetic and I understand it, both sides, all of them. I'm not sure they would actually believe that, and I don't mean that in a bad way. You know, a deadline's a deadline, and had we not posted it early, had I not spoken and emailed with, in this particular case, Ms. Pizzatola, two or three times, if we don't have a deadline, then fine, we don't have to have deadlines. We certainly can bring applications to you every month to go through them, whether they be any you choose. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful. We do try to follow the rules the commission's established.
And sir, I fully understand that. 21 years as a military officer, I understand why we have deadlines, and I understand all that. I also understand, though, that in certain circumstances, you can grant the waivers or make a grant an exception to the policy.
But you do also understand that even, and I'm not saying we will, even if we granted it, doesn't mean you get a license.
I understand, but we want the opportunity to be put. We want the opportunity to be put in front of the board with everybody else.
I just want to make sure that everybody understands that.
It's just a precedent also,
Yeah,
in every month.
It creates a precedent, and I can't speak for everybody on the committee, but it's really tough. But we've actually already been through this once.
In the first year, there were some issues about notifications,
and we allowed it because of the newness of it. So I think it's really difficult to every year allow it again. When we've already been through it, we've already made the rules.
Makes it a challenge to enforce deadlines later.
Correct.
We all our deadlines. It's the only one we missed, and
I understand.
Let me hear a little bit more from you, sir, on
I think
about the reasons why your client missed the deadline again, and from what I understand, you've explained your client is the new owner of Sip and Cycle, correct?
Part owner, yes.
New part owner.
Was under we have a membership agreement. There are certain warranties in that membership agreement. Some of those warranties that all the licensure was in effect and everything was in effect, insurance policies, all of those things. We got to digging, we found out that those in fact weren't in effect. That caused concern with the sale of the part ownership. We were about to file a lawsuit because the thing that is the valuable thing in all of these, clearly when there's only one time a year you can apply and all that revenue is lost. If you have to wait to the next year, the license is the thing, right? So we were about to file a complaint and had to make sure we did everything we possibly could to try to obtain that license. We thought, again, that it was not possible when we found out that there was application. And again, Mr. Fields has been unbelievably helpful in explaining everything. So once we knew that there was that possibility, I have a duty to mitigate damages if I possibly can. I had to come here to make application. Unlike most of the Metro boards, I think it is, well, I know it's complicated and it is new. I think the fact that you only can apply once a year does not make it I think there is a certain situation where you should be able to, if there are enough people trying to make application, again, with the understanding that they may not get approved or will not get approved, either way, letting them make that application, because revenues from these pedal pubs is significant. And a year, 12 months without that revenue stream is a significant burden if they're unable to get that. And for those reasons, I would just, again, whatever time restraint there is to get it in before that or August 24th hearing, if that's 10 days, if that's 2 weeks, if it's a week, whatever is reasonable to get that application in so that we can go ahead and get it applied and you'll have time to review it before that date.
So if I understand the consequences here, your client's out of business and is relying on a lawsuit if we don't extend it, and you don't get to apply to add the second vehicle, but you do have the one running.
We do have the one running.
Okay, thank you.
And the second one you can use special events because that's a different scenario.
It's a different kind of, I guess.
Is that correct?
We are turning away a lot of business right now.
They're allowed to use one. They can have more than one vehicle, but they can only
10
use
vehicles, but only one
on the
at a time.
Right. And Sip and Cycle is not, to my knowledge, they've never, again, not his client, the entity, the thing that has been called Sip and Cycle has never operated in compliance with our ordinance. Now we've never cited them because we did not catch them.
And or not operating at all now.
Let me ask you this.
So that
if they were in compliance, they would have to come back because the original owner is not part of this deal.
Correct. Anytime there's a sale transfer, it becomes, so
again, the original Sip and Cycle never had a permit.
It had an approval from the commission. The permit was never authorized by the office. Your approvals have always been contingent on all other materials being filed. They failed to file their insurance, failed to pay the fees. They just basically didn't come back. We had conversation, but they didn't come back.
So they knew they had to come back. They knew
the original
what was
Sip and Cycle
at risk.
absolutely knew that.
And this is just a hypothetical, but I'm asking the question. If the original owner was a part of this deal and came back and were in compliance, would they then have a license?
No, the license would have failed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Collins, he also said you got another person in the wings.
Yes, Your Honor. Or yes, member. Force of habit. Force of habit, Mr. McDowell. I do have someone in the wings that would be very eager to make application.
What would be their reasons for justifying the extension of time of the deadline?
They were operating out of ignorance, which again is not an excuse, but...
What's their name?
My client's name? The proprietor or the name of the company?
Company.
Nashville Pedal Bike.
Actual applications and the information they turn in, I'm assuming those deadlines were listed.
I'm sorry.
On the actual applications that they turn into you all for permits, I assume those deadlines are on.
They're not actually on the applications themselves, but we would have marked them when they came in. Anytime we have deadlines, it's almost a ritual and celebration in the office. The staff gathers at the front door. We watch the clock. We go to the parking lot. We want to make sure absolutely anybody that's within arm's length of the office is not turned down. In this particular case, nobody else came in that day.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out where all that information
All the information is on our website, and would be freely available. And as I think, as Mr. Collins mentioned, I'm very free with information and share quite more than they want to know.
And he's done the same for us too. We knew exactly where we were. We made a mistake, and very costly mistake. One, it comes, it possibly will affect the business in this way.
Just if I may, as you consider this, and when I say significant numbers, I mean 6 months can be triple digits worth of revenue, if not more than that. So you're talking potentially $200,000 to $250,000 worth of revenue that could be lost just in 1 year.
I know. My business had a risk of losing that kind of money. I would look at that calendar.
Yeah,
I'd be a little bit, you know. That would be something I'd look at. Right.
Again, I understand the deadline, so.
And I have a deadline. Yes, yes, we deal with permits all the time. I deal with sales tax. If it's not in on the 20th, I mean, there is no.
They don't care.
They don't care.
Does this require a motion, or is it just a discussion, and we say?
It would take, in order for something to change, the commission would have to take an affirmative action to reestablish the deadline. We would then take applications from anybody, the folks here, anyone else, until that deadline. Then, frankly, because I think you'd want to be fair about this, we'd probably need to take the August meeting and move it back, because I think it would be inappropriate for me. I think I would not be doing my job to advise you if, say, we open the applications on Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock. Because that would be unfair to anybody else, because once the deadline's open, it's open to anybody who chooses to apply. So whether it be 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, I don't recall what the time period was last year, but we ended up not making those decisions till October.
You know, one thing for us to consider is, you know, our actions, you know, don't create any kind of legal precedent. As long as we act reasonably and not arbitrarily, then our decisions should be upheld by the circuit court or transfer court if anyone ever appeals our decisions. So deciding to lift the expiration of the deadline and move it out, or to reschedule the annual meeting to September, for example, certainly would not create any kind of binding precedent on us in the future with respect to forcing deadlines. You know, we are we're as the Transportation License Commission, we serve the citizens of Nashville. You know, we're empowered to and entrusted to perform our duties with the idea of public safety and coming up with, you know, reasonable rules for transportation companies to follow. And it's unfortunate that we've got 3 separate companies asking for an extension. I take Mr. Collins' comments seriously when he says this will have a tremendous revenue impact. If we just simply say, nope, you've missed the deadline, I understand that, you know, we may not grant any additional permits at the actual meeting. So simply lifting the deadline doesn't mean that we're signaling somehow that we're going to grant permits. But it does seem to me that there's been reasons, maybe not all of them justified, but reasons for missing the deadline. And it seems to me, I can't think of a reason why we shouldn't allow them to go ahead and submit the application, because it would be harmful to public safety or harmful to the public in general in terms of allowing them their opportunity to seek a permit.
So my question, Mr. Fields, would be, if we moved it 30 days, would the deadline now be August 10th for them to submit? Because I think you said it was July 10th.
The original deadline was July the 10th. Let me look at it.
Okay.
If you were to
move it to the September meeting.
If you were to move it to September meeting, correct. In terms from a timing standpoint, it would be equal in time. I think the question is making sure that that would be, if the 10th were the deadline, that is on Thursday, you would have 1, 2, 7. You'd basically have, it'd be a 10 or 12 day out.
The next question is for legal. If we did this, does that open us up for people to now go, well, you just moved it, you can move it again?
Well, I believe that we would have to entertain the request if we received a similar request, because you're entertaining this one, if that's your question.
That's my question.
Yeah. Because you do want to give fair and equal opportunity. So if we had the same situation arise when we have our next annual meeting for, say, records, and we had someone miss a similar deadline, then to then deny them while you accepted this group would seem arbitrary.
Right.
Were you asking the specific question?
Well, I'm
about
trying.
This issue.
I'm actually asking to go back to the chairman's response about arbitrary versus. I don't want to put words in your
reasonable.
Reasonable, and it just seems to me that if you do move this, it becomes arbitrary.
I don't think it's arbitrary to move it. I think if the record has established that there's a reason for moving it, and you're compelled by that, what I was trying to explain to you is that I would be prepared to get these similar inquiries on related matters, and be prepared to treat those people similarly as you treated these, if that makes sense.
So it would be. Let me make sure that we play this. We do a lot of these sort of things. So it would be arbitrary if we failed to do it in the future. In other words, we just did this and never did it again. Somebody could come back and say, "Wait a minute, you were being arbitrary back then. Why?" In other words, if somebody comes in at the August meeting and says, "We want you to extend the deadline again because we missed August 10th," and we said, "No, we're not going to do that," would it be arbitrary at that point at the August meeting?
I don't think so if you provided enough notice. I'm more thinking of the scenario of similar type that comes up later. Wrecker is on their yearly notice, and and someone misses their deadline. Would we entertain adding their application?
Well, certainly I think it would have to be case by case.
Right.
I mean, they would have to bring forth justified reason why they missed it, as opposed to just asking for an extension.
Justified reasons for missing it either.
Well, that clearly is debatable, and we have to decide that. I don't get to vote. I was just expressing my opinion. I don't even get to make a motion.
Big old can of worms.
We were just talking about the finer points of annual meetings, and the ordinance does not speak directly to annual meetings for low-speed vehicles, pedal carriages. That's actually established by your rule. Taxi cab, emergency wreckers are established by code. Low-speed, pedals, horse and carriages are your decision to only hear it once a year. So that's what we're just talking about.
So the code specifically says you will only hear it one time per year. So if you were to do this for taxis, then that would be an additional issue that we're not facing. But I just wanted to point out that in the code, that would be a different situation.
You'd have to declare special meetings and so forth. It's just a little bit different process.
Well, I had initially thought you would probably lean towards holding him to toe the line, but I was moved by the statements by the chair about our role here as commissioners, and that is to protect the public and to serve the public. And part of the public is the people who are providing transportation. I'm balancing between the burden it would cause this commission, and in particular to Mr. Fields' office, to process additional applications against the need that these folks here have expressed for the two companies in particular. My own feeling is that we don't have the agenda yet. We don't have the materials for the August meeting yet.
Right.
I would be inclined to give them a week to get their applications in and not move the August meeting, and so that we don't get a flood of people coming in saying, whoops, we missed it too, we'd like to get on there, or anything like that. I was moved by the chair's comments about, especially since this is one of our own regulations, and that you were returning from Afghanistan in service, and you had a daughter's wedding, and granted, there's a lot of reasons, but I'm stumbling, but I'm inclined to think that we grant an extension, a very, very short extension, and that they get their applications in, and we hear them in August. That's not a motion, that is up for discussion.
Legal is right. We would need to open it to anybody who made an application.
I understand.
In the 30 years I've worked for metropolitan government, burden was never part of the issue. They typically don't ask me if it's going to be a burden. They usually just say, Mr. Fields, can you go do this? Yes.
I'd like to know that I'm the exception, but what is the purpose of deadlines? Just we can ask ourselves, what is the purpose of deadlines? Well, deadlines get things done. I had one judge up in federal court who often said, if I don't set a deadline, Mr. McNally, you and your co-counsels will not get things done, will not get things filed. And so that is the purpose of the deadline, is to get these things filed in a timely manner. And if Mr. Fields tells me it would not be unduly burdensome to receive a few applications and then get them disseminated out to us with the rest of the package, that's the other part of deadlines, is they make sure that staff and judges and people get things in a timely manner to have time to review them. So I'm balancing that against the plea that's been made here by these gentlemen.
And again, in the 30 years and the 9 different jobs that this government has blessed me with over the last 30 years, I've been asked questions multiple times, can you get this done? We will get done whatever the commission asks us to do. I think that's what we do, and we'll get it, how they say, it's who we are and what we do. We'll get it done. Again, I am more concerned about deadlines, but again, that's a policy issue. That's a commission, and as appointees of the mayor and confirmands of this council, you're working for the public, and I want you to. That's what this deliberative body is about, and that's what makes me very proud to work for the government. Is that we have people like you that are willing to do what you do for no pay, hot water, and long meetings sometimes. So we will follow whatever direction you give us, and we'll make whatever it is work.
My office is happy to provide any coffee or treats.
They don't let me have those either, but thank you.
I'm torn like you. I'm a big believer in deadlines, and my line of work, I'm sure just like everybody else is, if I miss getting my paperwork in for a event permit, they don't tend to care what my reasoning is. So, but I'm with you. It's just like I also understand sometimes circumstances get out of your control, and there's that soft heart of me that wants to be giving, but so I'm just torn.
I'm torn as well, but I do want to say that I don't want to move the meeting to September, and that would kind of be, I don't think that we need to disrupt the entire calendar.
I guess one more question for you is...
I'm the same. I don't want to send a signal, and the chair referred to this, that we are in any way saying we're going to give anybody a permit. I mean, we've had taxi meetings where nobody got a new permit. And I think in the current, I think you guys can read some tea leaves in what's going on in the current environment out there. So we have that to consider as well. So I'm not, I'm willing to say, okay, let's do that. I just want to put out on the table that this in no means means anybody's getting a permit to do anything. So are we in agreement?
I'll make a motion.
Can I ask one more question before you do? How hard is it to get
One more
notice out to
question.
everybody?
Excuse me?
How hard is it for your office, just in addition to that, to get notice out to all the other companies that
Well,
it's extended until?
What we would have to do, we'd take the existing companies and I would email them tomorrow saying the deadline has been extended until whatever date, you have until this date, this time. I mean, again, we're only talking 3 or 4, 5 companies, I guess, that we would actually get notice to. For that matter, I could dial the phone and say, hey, one of them is already here because. So, well, we'll do whatever.
And our next meeting's August 25th, right?
So what would the deadline be?
I'd say, yeah, the 4th. That'd be next Friday.
This is next Friday.
That would give everybody a week's notice, assuming that the notice could go out tomorrow.
Yours is going to be in tonight, right?
I have it in my wall.
Yeah.
Notarized and everything.
I'm sure.
All right.
Blank check, ready to go.
I'll make a motion that the deadline previously set for July 10th for applications on the low-speed vehicles and pedal vehicles be extended to Friday, August 4th.
At noon.
At noon.
Central Standard Time.
Central Standard Time, yep. And that everything would be heard on the August meeting as planned.
Just as a point of information, the reason we asked for noon, we used to say 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, we didn't say anything, and so then it was, well, does that mean midnight because it's the 4th? And then at 4 o'clock, cars would come sliding into the parking lot and strange things, so we do ask for noon. So that was what yes.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Yeah, you should set out another one of those.
Motion passes.
She won't be now.
Any other business, Mr. Fields?
Have nothing else to present to the commission this month.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Yeah, we're not allowed to talk about these things, so I was going to go ahead and say it out loud.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.